Yeah. All right. I think we're live. It says we're live. Checking Facebook. Not Facebook,
Nice.
the YouTube. We're live. Awesome. Sweet. All right.
Good stuff.
Welcome, everybody, to Dialogue Options number 3. I'm your host, as always, the Cobalt Cat. Joined with me right now is Marcamune. How you doing, Mark?
Good. I'm doing well. How about you?
Doing fantastic. Yeah. Like a few episodes ago, Russ is running a little bit late, and he'll be hopping on when he hops on. So, you got the arguably the two better thirds of the podcast anyway.
There you go. Yeah. If Ross ever listens to these things, he's gonna be disappointed with your choice of words.
That's okay. He can be disappointed.
That's okay. I think he already is. Did you say this was episode 3? It sounded like you said this was episode 3.
Oh, no. This is episode 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure I didn't I don't know, slip into a time vortex.
Yep. Episode lucky number 13.
Yeah. So yeah, we have been on a Magic kick, you and I.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Magic the Gathering. So I know we've been talking about that a bit the last couple of weeks, and there was a lot of news this week that we can open up with and talk about some of that stuff today and kind of what we've been doing with the game as far as building and playing, stuff like that. So
yeah, so let's just go ahead and roll into it. I actually have the an article from Forbes that just lists everything that was announced, so we can do like quick fire, take a look at everything that was listed, and then kind of go into more detail if there's anything that catches your fancy. How's that sound?
yeah, that
All right.
sounds good.
Awesome. So first thing that they have listed is an unconfirmed 2021 release. It's definitely coming in 2021. They just don't know what quarter it is. But there's going to be a Commander Collection Black deck coming out. Sounds kind of interesting. And then
is it a deck, or is it like a drop of select cards for
so it
Commander?
says that it exclusive prints of some blacks, most powerful cards, as well as Commander staples will be available in one collection. The cards are Liliana, Defiant Necromancer, Reanimate, Toxic Deluge, Ghoulcaller, Gisa. So it's a bunch of I think it's just like a big old Commander collection, so that way you can build a nice Commander deck out of that.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like it might be kind of like their like secret layer drops where they just release kind of a small print batch of cards for people to pick up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it says date hasn't been given, but Wizards of the Coast has been saying that it's coming soon. So it could be, be tomorrow. Who knows?
Okay, well, you mentioned Ghoulcaller Gisa, which is a creature that I had looked at before. So I just looked her up because she's pretty strong from what I remember. So it's she's black 3 is what she costs, 3/4, and you can pay 1 black and tap it and sacrifice another creature, and then you create X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens, where X is the sacrifice creature's power. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
That's a strong ability. You can flood the field with zombies. That seems like something that would be up your alley.
Yeah, that I might have to take. I might. Yeah, I might.
That might have to
think
be your
about
first commander deck.
Yeah, I'll think about looking into that.
I think Gisa used to be pretty expensive. I think she used to be like $25 or $30 or something, but now she's down closer to $6 to $8. Looks like
that's reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing that card, and the first creature that came to mind to try and abuse that effect was this legendary from Dominaria called Yargle, Glutton of Urborg, because he doesn't have any. Yeah, he doesn't have any abilities. He just costs 5 mana and is a 9/3.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so you could just sacrifice that and get 9/2/2 zombies.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah.
Pretty funny. What's the next thing you got on your list?
Next on the list is in quarter 4, Pioneer Challenger decks. I think they're called Azoria Spirits, Orhav Auras, Mono Red Burn, and Lotus Field combo. So a white blue, white
Yeah.
black, pure red, and then black, green, and blue decks. Um, so it's
Okay, yeah, they've released stuff like that over the years where they'll kind of they're kind of like a step up from starter decks, but they're
Mhm.
pre-constructed and they're meant to be able to be played as soon as you buy them
Mhm.
right out of the box. That's a cool idea.
Mhm. And then actually there's a release date listed for that. Um, October 15th, 2021.
Okay, coming up.
Yeah.
And then I know we're getting the next two sets. We're gonna be getting we're going back to Innistrad. So I think I don't know if they're back to back,
Mhm.
but they might be. But I know our next two sets we're getting more Innistrad stuff.
Mhm.
Is that on the list?
Um, let me take a gander down the list.
Yeah,
I
it was like Midnight Hunt or something,
mm,
and
no, I don't see it here on this list. So you're probably right. It is probably coming along with it.
yeah. Well, I heard that they're starting to show previews for it early September,
Mhm.
so we're gonna start seeing some cards for the next set, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna be Innistrad stuff. So this is the third time they're doing Innistrad,
Mhm.
and that's kind of like a gothic horror themed set. Not really my go-to genre. I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
but I do like the vampire stuff that they put in those sets. I have a vampire deck. The first deck that I really built, like as a more serious Magic player, was a vampire deck.
Yeah.
So maybe I can make that stronger with some cards coming up.
Mhm. Yeah. Totally. All right, going down the list more, we're making into the first quarter of next year, 2022, are going to be some challenger decks. So the first set is called Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, which I think looks really interesting because it's kind of like a
Oh yeah,
cyberpunk Japanese aesthetic, which sounds
yes,
really cool.
yes. I've only seen like one image of it that they released to kind of
It's
give you a flavor of it.
yeah, it's like the ninja
Yes,
on the rooftops. Yeah, it's here on this in this
yeah.
article. Yeah.
Just seeing that gets me so hyped. This is the second time. This is the first time they're actually returning to Kamigawa.
Mhm.
I they originally did a Kamigawa block, I think in the mid 2000s, and I wasn't playing Magic at the time.
Mhm.
And whenever I look back at the times when during when I wasn't playing Magic and think about how I kind of missed out and I wish I was playing Magic at that time, I always think to Kamigawa
Mhm.
first because of that Eastern theme and it has ninjas and samurai and all sorts of cool stuff. So I'm really excited
Mhm.
to get that set next year.
Yeah, based off of what this article's saying, that cyber ninja dude is actually going to be a new planeswalker called uh Kato. So we don't,
Okay.
and it says we'll see the return of an unconfirmed planeswalker as the current emperor of the world of Kamigawa. Which, all right, cool. We're gonna get maybe two new planeswalkers to play with, which sounds interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
But there's
unless
really not
unless
too much
they, yeah,
information out there, so like
no,
this could be literally anything.
yeah, but unless they really drop the ball and they print a lot of weak stuff and the abilities just aren't on point, like I have to build a deck based around that set.
Hmm.
It just sounds really cool.
Yeah. Uh, and
We
then
got Russ on the stream now.
oh, Russ, you're here.
Yes, I am.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome, Ace X-Wing 88 to the chat, everybody. He's joining us for dialogue options. We're still talking about the Magic news, Russ.
I heard you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're talking about some Magic, and before you just jumped on, Joe was mentioning how early next year there's going to be a set called Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. It's like a cyberpunk Eastern theme. Yeah, I'm pumped for that. I really hope there's a lot of cool stuff in there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, sometimes they'll bring abilities back. I wonder if they would bring back something like the investigate mechanic, because if it has a cyberpunk flavor to it, I feel like in cyberpunk there's always like there's a strong like detective theme, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm thinking Blade Runner, of course,
Yeah.
but it just seems like it'd be a good opportunity to bring that back.
Well-
It's usually because it's very closely tied to the film noir genre. And
Yeah.
most of those usually tend to be like, stereotypically like grimy, detective-driven stories. So yeah,
Well, it's interesting that you bring up that sort of mechanic and like the detective stuff, because in this next set that they have listed for the second quarter of 2022 is a set called Streets of New Capenna.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's supposed to be a an urban fantasy gangster aesthetic. So that might be more of the detective investigate ability style of play. They might bring back that ability for that.
Yeah, it could be. Or with these sets that they come out, they usually play off of each other, since they'll have multiple sets in standard at a time, so they like to have sets that can play nicely with each other. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that, so that Kamigawa plays well with Streets of New Capenna.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that looks cool. And then also a set called Unfinity.
Oh yeah, another unset. Are you familiar with the unsets?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, so there's silver bordered sets. You can't
Mhm.
use them for regular play. I really don't know much about them beyond the fact that they're just goofy, ridiculous cards that you can build a deck out of and play Magic in a very non-Magic kind of way.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think there were two that they came out with around 20 years ago. It was like Unhinged and Unglued,
Mm-hmm.
and then just within the last couple years they released Unstable. So I think this is the fourth one.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
And then continuing on with the third quarter of 2022, the third set that they're releasing is called Dominaria United.
Yeah.
So it says it's to celebrate the game's 30th anniversary. The third set of the year will be returning to the plane of Dominaria.
Yeah, that's where Magic started.
Mm-hmm.
So they came out with a set simply called Dominaria a few years ago, and that was really cool. I liked that. There's a lot of good stuff in there. So I'm excited to get more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then isn't there something after that called like the Brothers War?
Yeah, so for the fourth quarter of 2022, so closer to the end of the next year, is going to be a set called The Brothers War. Says while the war has been explored in previous sets, like Antiques, those look back on it after the war had already concluded. All right, so we're probably just going to get a lot of like really cool like lore cards, and that sounds interesting.
Yeah, stuff about Urza and Mishra.
Mm.
Back from their main heyday was cards in the 90s, like you said, like from Antiquities, and there's the Urza block back in the late 90s. Seeing this news made me think about it, how back in the late 90s, when I first got introduced to TCGs with Pokemon, because there was the whole Pokemon boom going on,
Yeah.
and when I would go to the store and there was no new Pokemon cards for me to buy, well, I started dipping into Magic just to get my TCG fix going. I collected the cards. I didn't actually know the correct rules of how to play Magic.
Mm-hmm.
But back when I used to collect back then, I was collecting during the time of the Urza block. And I remember I got a lot of packs from those sets, and I never knew who Urza was. I think I might have seen a dragon on one of the packs. Like they printed a dragon, a picture, probably from one of the cards. So I always thought that Urza was a dragon or something, and I wanted to keep opening packs in hopes that I would get Urza. But I don't think they actually made a legitimate creature for him until just a couple years ago. I think Modern Horizons, they gave him a creature card that I want to build a commander deck out of.
Yeah. And it says he might, I think he's a planeswalker too. He might have a planeswalker card.
Yeah, he might.
Yeah. And then after that, another set, Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate. It could be released either the third or fourth quarter of 2022. Sounds interesting. Baldur's Gate.
Okay.
Yeah.
More kind of D&D tie-in stuff.
And then they have the 4 Universes Beyond sets. So these are going to get more and more wacky as we go down the list. So the first one that they have listed is the Warhammer 40k Universes Beyond set.
Those are just going to be commander decks, though. Yeah. It's not going to be its own set.
Oh, okay. But
yeah,
that still sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So there's going to be Warhammer 40k. There's going to be a Street Fighter commander deck, I guess.
I think that's going to be like a secret layer drop where they release a select few of like I guess cards based on the characters. I don't know if that's. I don't think it's going to be a whole deck. I think it's just going to be select few cards.
Okay. And then also a Russell. Listen to this: a Fortnite secret layer set. They're gonna make Fortnite cards with Fortnite themed art.
I would assume that it would be themed about that. Yeah.
But
somebody get me back when they get a hold of me when they make Star Wars themed Magic sets.
Yeah, I mean that would be a really cool Universes Beyond cards to do.
Yeah, I don't think it's out of the frame of the realm of possibility. They had the Star Wars Destiny card game, which failed. Went out of print. So it's an opportunity to put something kind of different into Magic. It wouldn't be too shocking.
And look, they made they're gonna make Fortnite cards. There's anything is possible at this point.
True.
Yeah, I think it's going to be similar to what they did for like The Walking Dead, where they release a handful of cards based on that show. I think that's how they're handling Street Fighter and Fortnite. Whereas Warhammer is getting its own commander decks. But Joe, there's something coming up in, I believe, 2023.
Yeah, so they're save the best one for last. So they're gonna do Lord of the Rings: Tales of Middle Earth in 2023. So yeah,
I think that would definitely work well. Yeah.
So that's coming out as a commander deck, and I am really excited about that. So I'm definitely gonna be dropping some big bucks for that one. Probably at release. I'm not sure.
Yeah, definitely. You're a big Lord of the Rings fan, so I think you'll enjoy playing with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So aside from, the Lord of the Rings, whatever they're doing there, what gets you most excited?
Honestly, and it's it's the Kamigawa. No doubt about
same
it.
Here.
No doubt
same
about
here.
It looks cool. It sounds cool. It's just it seems like it's so cool. I don't know how else to describe it. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, rad.
Yeah. So how you doing, Russell?
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Yeah. What set are you most excited for there, Russ?
It's tough to say because not a whole lot of them are really, really terribly appealing to me in terms of the actual aesthetic that they're going for. But out of all of them, I'd probably say the one I think would fit the best and would be the most entertaining would be the Lord of the Rings one.
Good.
Just because of the fact that like I feel like it's the one like universe that would actually fit the aesthetic of Magic the best
Yeah.
and would be the easiest transition. Like, you basically imagine like if you have, if it's a commander deck, you probably wind up having something like, I'm guessing like the dwarves would be, the proper term is dwarves for Gimli, right? Yeah.
Yes, it's
Uh,
dwarves.
yeah, dwarves. So they'd be so he would probably be like the commander of the dwarf deck. You'd probably have like what's his name as a commander of the elf deck for green,
Legolas.
Legolas.
Yeah.
You'd probably have like Aragorn as the one for white.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know who you would do for blue.
Probably
That'd be
Gandalf.
Gandalf. Yeah.
Gandalf, and then black would be Sauron,
Hell yeah.
or
Or
yeah,
Saruman, yeah.
or Saruman as well.
Mhm.
That's another way to go. And the thing is that like I feel like just because of the fact that a large amount of games similar to this are kind of built off of that Norse mythology that what's his name, that Tolkien basically borrowed
Mm-hmm.
for Lord of the Rings. I mean, most of it's based off of Norse mythology, and the first thing to do it wasn't that, it was Wagner's operas in the late 1800s. It kind of resonates really well with what Magic does, you know. So
Yeah, Wagner's operas, yeah.
listen. This is coming from somebody who went to school for music, so trust me when I say that basically it's half like Lord of the Rings, just about 50 years prior to the books being written, and with a lot more music in it.
Yeah,
So
so
yeah, I would say probably out of all of them, that'd be the one I would be most looking forward to. But I won't go and say like I can't wait for it to come out. I just think it would be the coolest of them.
Mm.
Although the Fortnite one they should burn before they even make them.
Wizards is smart, they're putting those few Fortnite cards out there, and they're capitalizing on that younger generation of kids, trying to get them into Magic.
Mhm.
It's a good idea.
If they have to do that to get them into Magic, then apparently the game isn't selling itself.
Well, you
Even though
also
it
kind of
typically does.
like have to remember it is kind of a tough
A special.
game. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough to get into. Like, there's a lot of rules, and even me, who's like at this point kind of like semi-intermediate, I'd say I'm pretty proficient at being able to play the game. There's still rules that I'm like, wait, what is that rule? What does that do?
I would definitely say out of like the majority of the card games that it is the hardest one.
There's a lot of nuance to the mechanics, and that can be like a barrier to entry for some people. So I understand.
I mean, that's the way I felt about when I was in my teenage years. Was that like at the time I was a Yu-Gi-Oh player, so there were several things I really couldn't get over the difference of, like, what you mean I can't choose which monsters I attack. That kind of stuff. Was like it was kind of a half turn off to me because it kind of felt like there was a lot more uncertainty in the way the game was played, and it just seemed like there was a lot of extra stuff. But I think what specifically did it for me was the concept of, I had a friend of mine who had an elf deck, and it just did nothing but spawn tons and tons of like 1/1 counters for elves, and I'm like, dude, I don't even see cards on the table. It's like it's hard for me to deal with the fact that like you got all these creatures and I see nothing here on the table except for counters. It's just it kind of turned me off to it for a while. But that was it. I mean, obviously, like you said before, it has a pretty tough learning curve. So I could see them definitely trying to do that to get more people interested in it. But
and at the very least, they're at least some prospect for like collectors,
True.
Like you want to complete
Fortnite?
Do you want to complete the Street Fighter, set? Get all the Street Fighter cards? You want to do all the Walking Dead cards, or you want to get all the, Fortnite cards? Special ability instant is Orange Justice.
Oh god.
Whatever the hell that does.
It's a dance. It's a dance. Just like
I don't
floss.
know. I've never played it.
I haven't either. But once you've taught children,
I
what
probably
half those
never
dances
will
are.
play it. But I respect the game just because it's such a phenomenon, and I know that there are a lot of kids out there who play it, and it's spawned so much. Like there are toys, there's all sorts of stuff. Like
Mhm.
celebrities do concerts and stuff in the game. I think it's pretty impressive, and
Yeah.
I don't want to just like
Down
shame
on it.
it for the sake of shaming it, because then I'll just turn into one of those adults and be like the folks from like 20, 25 years ago when the big Pokemon boom hit and I was all into that, and the adults didn't get it. I don't want to turn into that. Like, this is I respect Fortnite as pretty much like the current generation of kids kind of Pokemon boom. Like, this is their big thing that they can all get involved with and play. So if this can be an introduction to for them to a game that I think is great, a game
Yeah,
that I love with
couldn't hurt.
Magic, yeah, it's a good idea.
Hmm.
Yeah, don't listen to me. I'm old and cynical.
Yeah.
Well, the more people playing, the better. Because honestly, when
This is true.
a few weeks ago, when I first started getting back into it, I started telling people, I was like, "Oh yeah, I went and picked up a deck of Magic cards," and I shit you not, one dude that I work with, he was just like, "So you're getting into Magic, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm real excited about it." He's just like, "So you getting good at it?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay." He's like, "All right, can you do a trick for me?" And I was like, "Shut up, it's not that kind of magic."
Oh God.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm all for it. But yeah, I've been on my Magic kick, and I have 3 card decks brewing up in the
Oh, boy.
works right now.
Oh good Lord.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see them, and Russell is like, "Oh God, no, anything but."
Like I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Mark has a sadistic streak about how he builds his decks, and I'm usually not a happy camper to see how it plays out.
I build fun decks. For
Fun to
me.
play, not fun to
Yeah.
go up against.
Be on the receiving end of.
Yeah, so yeah, nothing's changed over the last week. I've been kind of polishing those up, and I have my list of cards that I need, so I'm getting those ordered, and hopefully it doesn't take too long for them to get here. But I got some deck boxes. I have sleeves already.
Nice.
I already pulled out the cards that I already have for the decks, so I'm ready. I just need them to get here.
Right on. Any hints at what we could be looking at?
All right. So 3 decks. Yeah, sure. So the first one, it's a Jeskai themed deck. Now, about, I don't know,
That sounds familiar.
5 or 6 years ago, there was the Khans of Tarkir block,
Mm-hmm.
and it kind of dealt with had kind of an Eastern theme, and it was all about like 5 clans pretty much, and one of those clans was Jeskai,
Mm-hmm.
and their colors are blue, white, and red, and it was pretty much like very like Eastern kind of martial arts kung fu themed, lots of monks, and that sort of aesthetic. And I always thought that was cool, and some of the mechanics were cool. So ever since that, those sets were coming out, I've wanted to build a Jeskai themed deck
Mm-hmm.
that really goes all in on the theme of monks and kung fu and like kind of peaceful warfare, if you will. I tried to work that into it, but that's one of them.
Okay.
The second deck is the one where I'm finally putting vehicles in it. This is one where ever since vehicles were introduced in Kaladesh, I've
Mhm.
wanted to build a vehicle themed deck, and I would say I'm not all in on the vehicles for the deck. It's kind of it's a theme for the deck, but they're more there for support, and it kind of has like an artifact theme to it in general. Yeah, my thought process was I'm gonna have all these vehicles in there. They're all artifacts. I'm gonna make this deck an artifact themed deck. So that's the second one, and the third one is that all green, rampy, really quick deck where I can flood the field with big creatures really
I think
quickly.
you were telling us about this before.
Yeah, I might have mentioned it last week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, That one in particular sounds really cool. I'm interested to play against that one.
I'm interested to watch you play against it.
Well, I'm probably not going to fare too well, but actually my
Don't worry,
cards,
I'll enjoy watching.
the cards that I ordered about a week ago are actually here, and I've already put them into my deck. So, because my deck kind of has like that devotion mechanic go on with it. Yeah, so I found some cards that are a lot more helpful with the devotion thing, and so I'm excited for that. Also, I trimmed some of the fat with like some of those kind of weird, like, very fluky cards, like that Archon of the something or other, the Falling Stars or something or whatever, and it was too expensive of a mana cost to justify it because it was like a 4/4 flyer for 6, and when it died, you could bring back a enchantment onto the battlefield from your graveyard. And while that's like a pretty decent ability, it's very situational and it's not going to happen very often. So I opted for something a little bit different. So I don't want to say what it is because I got to keep my cards close to my chest a bit. But
I hate to tell you this, but once it's out of the bag, it's out of the bag.
Oh no, I know. I got to keep that cat in the bag as long as I can.
I like the surprise.
Yeah.
I like playing against decks that I'm not familiar with the cards of.
Yeah.
So that should be fun. But yeah, that pretty much does it for what I've been looking at in terms of cards lately. What have you guys been playing this week?
Actually, I've been playing a bit of The Forest. You ever hear of that one? So it's kind of like it is an open world survival horror game. But it's kind of more along the lines of like a crafty, buildy kind of survival game where so the premise of the game is you're on an airplane with your son Timmy, and then you crash onto an island, and Timmy
doesn't make it.
No, Timmy gets kidnapped by cannibals.
Oh.
And so it's basically what you got to do is just fight to survive and search for clues to help you find Timmy. And it's got an interesting crafting and like base building mechanics going on in there where like everything is totally free form, but it's kind of very finicky as far as like setting things and then building it, because what it is you kind of create a blueprint that is placed in the world and you can build anywhere, and then
is it kind of like the bases from Fallout 76 where you build it and then you can pick it up and move it?
No. So once it's been placed, the only way to like remove the asset is to destroy it.
Okay.
So you kind of like plan it out, and then you collect your materials. It basically gives you a big old checklist on the lower left hand corner of like the amount of materials that you need to complete what you have planned. And then it feels like it's balanced for like a multiplayer, even though there's a single player option. You can play it multiplayer with your friends, but it's very tedious to like build big things because it just takes forever.
Okay.
Yeah, so like you have very limited inventory capacity too. Like without any of your inventory upgrades, you can only carry 10 sticks and 5 stones. And with the upgrades, it only doubles your capacity. So like you're running back and forth between like picking up sticks and stones and putting them into your sled or whatever, and dragging it all over the place, and that has limited capacity. So it's one of those games I think is more balanced towards multiplayer.
All right.
Yeah, but no, I'm still having fun with it. And there's a big twist in it where like it's not just cannibals, but it's also like mutant creatures, and they get really fucky. They look like.
Sounds wild, man.
Yeah, it's like horrific creatures with like 18 arms. It's ridiculous. And they come to fuck up your base at night.
Damn, of course they do.
Yeah.
What about you, Russ? What have you been playing?
Well, I mean, I haven't changed it up a whole lot. Like I said before, I went back to Skyrim and I finished up the Thieves Guild line, which was fun. And
Cool.
yeah, so now I'm getting set to start up the Fighters Guild or the companions
Mm-hmm.
and work my way through that. I will say that I finally got a pet in game. I finally got Vigilance, and he's staying at Bree's home, and I won't accidentally kill him like one of our friends did.
Vigilance.
Mm-hmm.
Next time I'm at your house, I'm gonna turn on your system and I'm gonna kill your dog.
Yeah, you better not.
He's going down. He's getting a Fusro Da.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm gonna
I'm
launch
actually,
him over a mountain range. He's gonna fly so far. He's gonna be
Ugh.
sleeping with the Horkers.
Don't do that to me. No, he doesn't actually. He doesn't come on quests with me. He stays in my house.
You gotta have a kid to have a pet, don't you?
I do. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, and like the thing is, like, the kid needs to pick your dog as the pet. So, like,
yeah,
there's like
they did.
memes online where it's like, I'm waiting so long for my kid to pick my dog as my pet so I can keep it at home so my dog doesn't die, and then the kid brings home a fucking rat.
Oh my god. All right,
kill the rat and have your kid pick another pet.
Yeah.
No, okay, yeah. We'll just
Yeah.
do that then, Russ, except with your dog.
No, the dog's already my pet.
Mm.
Right.
It
Kill your
didn't
dog.
take long. No. What? No.
Kill
stop.
your dog, adopt their cat.
Kill it.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, adopt a really
Please,
dumb kind
Dad. This is a saber cat. Can we keep him?
Oh my. No.
Those things
Funny-
tore me up when I first started playing that game.
Oh
Oh
my
yeah, they're fucking vicious, especially on like harder difficulties too. Because like it, sometimes I'll go around playing it on legendary difficulty because I like to be a masochist sometimes. And so Russ, if you're not familiar with the way that Bethesda does harder difficulties, it is really lazy. So they basically turn down your ability to deal out damage, and they ramp up the enemy's ability to deal damage. So at that point, you're doing like 1/8% of what you'd be able to do normally, and your enemies are doing 16 times damage. So with something like a saber cat,
that's not even a difficulty spike. That's just like that's a lazy way of making you have to play for longer.
Yeah,
It almost means you have to be playing like Spell Sword to constantly heal yourself, basically.
You can't heal off the damage. It's like playing Dark Souls, but you die on one hit.
What the hell is the point of it? How are you supposed to win besides sneaking around and like killing people as an assassin?
Yeah, that's it. That's how you do it.
Oh my god, that's bad enough through dungeons. I don't feel like having to do that for an entire game.
Yeah. So
for once it'd be nice to actually body somebody with a greatsword.
yeah, so like it's terribly unbalanced, and so like creatures like that are quick, like saber cats, they just tear you apart quickly. It's ridiculous. And just forget ever going up against giants because you'll never be able to tank a hit from them.
Yeah, I haven't gone up against a whole lot of giants since early on in the game, and that was because I was able to cheese it standing on a rock they couldn't get to and just hitting them with arrows.
I can picture you being a very hardcore cheeser.
In certain circumstances, yes, but now I feel like I'm strong enough to actually like handle most things well enough because my guy has basically become a paladin of sorts in that like a heavy armor user with a great sword, healing, and alteration like Iron Flesh to basically boost up my defense. So yeah.
Also, Russ, keep in mind there is an armor cap of 85%. So anything above like 800 something, it's diminishing returns. So just keep that in mind.
I don't think I'm getting that high up yet.
All right.
But no, I mean it's been fun to do. I've had a chance to kind of do some of the things I haven't done in a while. Like right now, I'm in Arkanthams or whatever it is, the Dwarven Ruins, and I'm proud to say I've been overencumbered almost only one time in this past week.
Wow.
Better.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting better with it. It's been fun, but I think eventually I'm gearing up for a playthrough of a different game. Like obviously last week, Mark, we played the beta of Diablo 2 Resurrected.
How was that?
Yeah, that was
Pretty good.
yeah, I had fun with it. I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
Russ,
I thought it was going to be like a complete like redoing of the look of it. And it looks like I'm playing a game straight from like 1998. The
no,
graphics are better, but
it is a redo of the look of it. I mean, the graphics are all updated, but you can only do so much to a 20-year-old game.
it's true. Yeah.
But it looks good for what it is. Rust does not like the inventory system because
I'm not a fan.
it's one of those classic kind of styles where you have an inventory made of squares, and certain pieces of loot take up different amounts of squares, and you really, at least at the start of the game, you can't carry a whole lot before you're over encumbered. You actually have to pick and choose stuff that you'll actually need pretty much to carry with you. So Russ isn't a fan of that.
I think the biggest reason I'm not a fan of it is because the majority of the things that you find, like whether they be armor or weapons out in a dungeon, are you have to use a scroll of discovery on them, or what is a scroll of identification or scroll of identify.
Yeah,
to figure out what they are. Like you don't know what it is right away, so it's not like, okay, well I should keep this, or I should just not bother with it, or chuck what I currently have and take the next one. It's like, well, this may be good, or this may not be good.
Yeah, but we found out that lady was selling those scrolls, and they were only like 80 gold, which wasn't too bad. So, I mean, you could just buy a bunch of those. We got that book. We can keep the scrolls in the book.
That's
so it
true.
doesn't take up a bunch of inventory spaces. So,
apparently, as you get further in the game, Deckard Cain will actually identify them for free for you, from what I've heard.
all right, yeah. So there's that to look forward to. Eventually, it might not even be an issue, but I don't know. I mean, like for your average item you see laying on the floor, might not be worth identifying unless that piece of equipment happens to be a few levels behind and you're really hurting for something new.
Right.
But I would imagine that most of the time you're going to get into a groove where you'll fight a boss and they'll drop something good that has like a different color name, so you know it's something good, and then that needs to be identified. And it's like, oh, of course, well, I'm going to identify this. This is definitely going to be something good.
The one thing I had to get over was my my penchant for being a Hoover vacuum when I see items on the ground.
Yeah, you're a kleptomaniac. You need to work on that.
Dude, the way I think about it is it's like I'll just take them all and figure it out later.
Yeah, except you're playing with
I know, dude. It's tough to get used to because I don't think Diablo 3 did that. I think everybody was actually able to get their own stuff. It didn't like it was one for one and that was it. Was it?
I don't know. I can't remember, but we were playing with our friend Enrico, Joe, and we were going through the dungeon. And we only played the one night, but there were multiple times in that night where like we killed something and a bunch of loot dropped, and Enrico was just like, "Oh, like what's this over here?" And before we could even look at what dropped, Russ is over there in the pile, putting it all in his pocket.
Oh my god.
And then you immediately forgot about it. We were just like, Russ, what are you doing? You just took everything. And you're just like, what? Wait, okay, let me drop this. It's like second nature for you.
It kind of is because like the majority of RPGs I've played before, like with the exception of the newer ones with the over encumbrance, don't really give you any major issue for taking stuff. Like think about the way like. Yeah, obviously not the original Pokemon games, but once you get to the third generation, there's no downfall to taking items with you. You literally just can take everything with you. So it encourages you not to leave anything. So it's kind of a second nature type of thing, and I have to catch myself on that on occasion. I think Enrico was ready to blow a stack on that one.
He was ready to strangle you through the headset.
Oh my god.
But I mean, point is, yeah, we had fun with the beta, and I'll definitely be picking the game up as soon as it comes out. It's only gonna be $40 for the standard version, and it doesn't seem like the $60 version gives you a whole lot extra that's worth it. I think the main thing you're getting is like the ultimate copy of Diablo 3, which I mean, we
already played, didn't we?
Yeah, we have Diablo 3, and with the Reaper of Souls expansion. So the only thing I really don't have in Diablo 3 is the Necromancer class, and I'm not, it's not big enough of a sell for me, is what I'm saying. So
Enrico would be.
Yeah, but he can be a Necromancer in Diablo 2, and that's what he's gonna be.
That is true.
So what you're saying is, if you don't have any Diablo 3, you you should consider getting the $60 version of Diablo 2
Right.
because you can
Yeah.
get it all.
Look into it. I think that's how it works. If you buy the $60 version of Diablo 2 Resurrected, it comes with the Ultimate Diablo 3. I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
All right, I'll take a look at it because I've actually never played any Diablo games, so I'm interested in checking that out.
Yeah, give it a look. Definitely,
Mm-hmm.
it's worth it. You know, they made that kind of genre popular,
Mm-hmm.
so I'll be picking it up, and it has cross play.
Oh, so
And
I don't have any excuses to not play with you guys.
Exactly.
and it has cross progression, so I guess you could just pick it up from whatever system and keep playing the same characters.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
And you can play with up to 8 players at once. So
that's a nice part.
I want to convince as many people as I can to get this, so we can just roll in there with a huge mob.
There you go.
That'd be fun.
So Russell,
That means I get to yell Leroy Jenkins at some point.
Russell, that's a 15-year-old meme. Let it die.
I don't care. It's still
Kill the past.
shut up. What? Let go of the past. Kill it if you have to.
Yes.
I don't think so.
Does it hurt?
I don't care how much Swallow Ren wants me to kill the past.
Anyway, the game that I'm playing right now, a few days ago, I started playing a PS3 game called Enslaved: Odyssey to the West, and I've seen it on YouTube. Like I've seen a couple of YouTubers talk about it, and it looked interesting. It kind of piqued my interest. So this is actually one of the games that I got at the Too Many Games Game Swap back at the end of June this year.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I hooked up my PS3 that I bought off eBay, I think, last year. I think this is the first time I'm actually using it for a game, so I'm glad I'm getting some use out of that system, and I'm finally playing this game, and I'm enjoying it so far. The best way I can describe it is it's like a sci-fi version of Uncharted. And instead of the emphasis being on gunplay, it's on melee combat. But it's cool. I think it's based on I think it may be a Chinese story or Chinese mythology or something.
What, Journey to the West?
Yeah. So I think it's based on that loosely. I'm not
Isn't
familiar.
that isn't that the thing that crap? Isn't that the thing that had Sun Wukong as the thing, and that's what they also based Goku off of Son Goku?
I think so. Yeah, because the main character is a human guy, but his name's Monkey.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he fights with a staff, just like you usually see Wukong or like Goku in Dragon Ball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, Journey to the West is a pretty famous tale.
Right. So it's loosely based off of that. I'm not familiar with the source material to say how closely related it is, but it's an interesting, more like modern take on that story, I guess, and it's fun. I think it's an overlooked game, not quite as good looking as Uncharted or as smooth to play as Uncharted, but if you like those games, which I love those games, then I was pleasantly surprised to find out that Enslaved plays a lot like those.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it pretty much does it for what I've been playing. And just today I was on eBay and I put in the order for my next game, so I'll be talking about that eventually.
Gotcha. Speaking of buying systems, I'd like to and games, I'd like to say I got about a hair's width away from actually getting an Xbox Series X the other night.
Ooh.
I got so ridiculously close, only to get an error message at the last possible minute of placing the order.
Oh, I'm surprised you didn't go to the store and have like a moment like in Jingle All the Way where it's just like, no, I need it. I need that for Jamie.
Did it actually let you put it in your cart?
It did. I got to the point I had it in my cart. I actually had payment information in.
Wow.
Got to the very end, went to go pay it, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, an error has occurred. I'm like, you have to be kidding me. So I tried it again, and it's like, we're sorry, this item is now out of stock. I'm like, You're kidding me.
Yeah, welcome to the fight, my friend.
So close.
Yeah.
But I won't lie and say it wasn't kind of fun with the chase itself, because they did the initial one at 9, and then there was another one 10 minutes later, and then 10 minutes after that.
Yeah. They Walmart releases it in waves.
I'm gonna get one eventually. I hope.
You
Hopefully
got
before
bested
Infinite
by
comes out.
Sinbad there, Russell.
I got bested by Sinbad. That's
Yep.
right.
Well, you really don't. You need it sooner than that. You wanted to have one before Battlefield comes out. That's
When does that come out?
It's like October, around 23rd or 24th,
Oh,
so that
Good
time
lord.
frame.
So by Halloween, you gotta get one.
I don't know if that's gonna happen before then. At the rate it's been going,
Yeah,
I'm not biting the bullet and spending an extra 300 for it.
My plan is, in September, I think I'm going to sign up for GameStop's Power Up Pro membership, because what GameStop has been doing is they've been offering their restocked systems to their Pro Rewards members before the general public. So yeah, like our friend Evan, he has a Power Up Pro membership, and he's gotten emails saying that it was available at X time for members of that service, and it's only $15 for a year.
Oh.
No, I guess they found a way to actually get me to renew it after all these years.
Well,
yeah, same.
It's either pay $15 extra for your Xbox or your PS5, or pay $300 extra for your Xbox or PS5.
Yeah,
I don't know how much of a done deal it is if you have the Power Up membership, because
right. But
I'm sure there are a lot of...
it gives you a little bit of an extra edge.
It does, yeah. So it might be slightly easier to get them through that. I don't know. I hope it is.
Yeah, same.
But I mean, even that extra $15, it ends up paying for itself, because I think the way their service works, it's like every month they give you a $5 off coupon. So like once a month you can get $5 off on a purchase, and like September Diablo, October Battlefield, and then in December Halo. So right there, it'll be paying it for itself. I just need to get the membership and have that chance at the Xbox.
Yeah, I guess that means I'll have to actually do that. I've been telling them for years I didn't want to renew it, but I guess they'll be happy to find out finally.
Yeah, I've been kind of lightly boycotting them for years after they screwed me over a long time ago. So
yeah, I can't tell you the last time I actually unironically walked into a GameStop to buy a game. And that's
the reason I always have is that like the one that's near me has always been good, but it's also closer to me than anything else.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna be signing up for that next month. But if I don't get one before Battlefield, then I will be going on eBay.
Oh jeez. The thing that drives me nuts is, I know there's the chip shortage, but like this is going on a year plus almost, not a year plus, a year almost since the system's been out, and people still can't get one. It's ridiculous to think that like, hey, maybe we should be sequestering away the parts we need to actually create these things far enough in advance to actually have enough ready to go.
Yeah, I'm sure they're doing something, but I don't know. Between the shortage and bots scooping up all the stock that does make its way to retailers, it's tough. It's tough right now.
I will say this. One of the things I saw on Walmart's website that they kept trying to do is quite often it would come up with a tab you had to press and hold.
Yeah. Yep. I know
And
it well.
do that to keep it from making sure it was a bot.
I tweeted about that the other day.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you don't want it to be a bot because everybody in the grandmother program bots to buy up everything so they can just resell it at ridiculous prices.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I got excited when I saw that, because the last time I tried to get one through Walmart, that they didn't have that. So I thought that this was some sort of new system they had in place to prevent bots from scooping them up right away.
True.
But that must not have been the case, because they were still immediately sold out.
Oh,
but
yeah.
They don't have the thing where it's like, oh, click these pictures of stop signs.
So which one doesn't have a picture of a boat in it?
Oh my god.
I wish. Which one of these pictures of Mark's living room doesn't have an Xbox in it? Oh, it's all of them.
Yeah, that part's true. Oh my
Yeah.
god. It's just gonna be like rough trying to get one, and it's kind of frustrating that you have to work this hard to get a system.
Yeah, it sucks, but um, I'm not going to stress out about it too much. Like I said,
Yeah.
that was my plan for how I'm going to go about securing it. And when the time comes, if I have to go to eBay and pay an extra couple $100, I don't care. I don't care. I'm going to do it.
I can't cross that line out of principle.
Yeah, I want the system. I want to play the games I want to play already. I'm not going to wait who knows how long. Whatever.
No, I mean that makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see them have like a surge of systems available right around the time Halo Infinite comes out because it's a system seller.
Yeah, I hope.
I hope so too, but I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. It's been interesting trying to get one, but it's still kind of frustrating to see. So, and the funny part I saw is that these ones weren't even going to be like shipped out to you until mid to late September.
Well, I've heard that even the people who have secured it through Walmart, sometimes they've had to wait for a while. Like some people have been waiting since late July to get their
Oh god.
system, which doesn't matter to me as long as I have it locked in and I have it before Battlefield. I don't care. It can take its time,
Mhm.
but it is something to keep in mind.
I get the feeling I'm probably not going to be playing Battlefield with you right away.
I don't think so. No.
Probably not. It's just there's something about like that line that I can't cross and justify to myself like spend an extra $300 on a system. There's just I can't. It would be like buying a brand new computer.
I don't know if they're selling for 300. I haven't looked too much, but I thought they were only selling for like 150, 200 above retail.
100 extra isn't bad. 200 plus that starts to get to be a bit much.
Yeah, I think PS5s are probably going for closer to 300 above retail. I think that's the more sought after system right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just looking on eBay right now, the lowest ones I've seen are like 650.
Yeah,
Some of them
that's not bad.
that's not
Yeah.
terrible.
Is that shipping included?
Let's see here. Let me go back and take a look. Plus $13 shipping. But
Yeah,
it was pre-owned. It wasn't new.
Okay, so after that and some tax, you're paying under $200 extra, which really isn't that bad. If you think about all the time spent, going on these retail websites trying to get one when they say that consoles are going to be restocked, just think about the hours spent doing that.
Dude, I can't do it. I can't bring myself to do it.
All right,
But that's just me.
I'll see you. I'll see you maybe late 2022 in Battlefield.
I'll see it then. Well, speaking of multiplayer games,
Yeah, speaking of a time when we didn't need to worry about console shortages, when all you needed was just a few good friends, some soda, some
and
pizza,
a lot of patience.
and some video games and a couch. That's actually a lot of things, but they're easily attainable things.
Yeah.
Patience, not so much. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about couch co-op versus online multiplayer tonight, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think we're just going to be talking about all sorts of great couch co-op games that you can play with people in person.
Mm-hmm.
The joys of doing that, and the advantages that it has over online play.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. I know Joe has a bit of a story to tell when it comes time for the advantages over online play.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So, it's going to be a fun one.
It's not necessarily an advantage. It's more of a con. But yes, it's a story.
Okay.
Well, I think he means like the couch co-op over online multiplayer.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, the cool part is that for those of us that grew up through the 90s, the couch co-op was the only way to play with more than one person. And, there were only so many games. Like when we were growing up, most of the systems you could only play co-op with another person. It wasn't like 4-player co-op.
Yeah, I feel like online play was probably like in its infancy on PCs with stuff like Doom back then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So only a very small subsection of people were playing online.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of times, if you were even playing online at all, that was surprising considering that it was a 64K modem really at the time. A lot of people, if you were playing multiplayer with a computer, you were having a LAN party essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, LAN parties. Oh, yes.
Mhm. But the thing is that looking back at like some of the great games that basically were born out of multiplayer interaction, or not only that, but like cemented their reputation. I feel like a lot of them were really straight from Nintendo's library.
Yeah, I wanted to start by talking about the N64 specifically and
Go for it.
a lot of those games. Yeah, I just wanted to open it up and just generally talk about a lot of the great games and, maybe share some stories about some of those.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I think the one that sticks out for me the most, my favorite one was not one of the first party Nintendo games. I'm sure you can see where I'm taking this, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Go.
my
Yep.
my favorite couch multiplayer game was GoldenEye
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
on N64, and I still have a
absolutely.
blast playing that to this day. I think we've talked about GoldenEye on the show before, but yeah, I love that game. It's great for multiplayer, just getting four people together, doing some split screen. Love that game.
I will say now, though, the control scheme is probably one of the most awkward control schemes that I actually could think of now. But it didn't feel that way in the late 90s because we didn't have the dual stick setup that's standard now.
Oh yeah, nowadays, like if you grew up playing GoldenEye like I did, then it's just kind of ingrained in your mind. It's just you're just
Mhm.
programmed to play GoldenEye, and you pick it up, and it takes some time to shake off the rust because it is a really weird control scheme without that second stick. But you couldn't make a GoldenEye today with two sticks. It just wouldn't feel the same. It wouldn't have the same kind of gameplay.
I think the pacing would be different.
Yeah, it would just feel off. A lot of the times in GoldenEye, you were having such a tough time aiming that a lot of the times you would find someone, and the two of you would end up just running in circles. You'd just be circling and firing your weapons or trying to slap someone down if you didn't
Mhm.
have one. And that was part of the dance. That was part of the
Mhm.
game. And you could try and throw off your rhythm a little bit and move in a different way because part of the challenge of the game was in a way the how it controlled, and you could use that to your advantage if you knew what you were doing. But
It was one of those games that was so beloved that it developed its own meta and own kind of in-game rule set that people had that wasn't actually in the game. Like,
no odd
some
job.
people would play like no odd job, slappers only,
Yep.
all that kind of stuff. Like where a game is good and people enjoy it when they start developing their own rule sets for it that aren't officially in the game.
I remember our go-to rule that we would put in back in the day was license to kill, so it was one-hit kills.
Mhm.
Because it could be annoying because you got pretty much health, especially if you had body armor
Mhm.
in that game. It could take a while to kill someone, so it would really suck if you spent a while shooting someone and then somebody else came in and took your kill that you were working at. So license to
We,
kill kind of does away with that.
we definitely don't have a friend that does that.
No, definitely not Evan. But um, yeah,
No, but I mean, see, like that's an example.
I remember back in the day, my older brother was always the best out of our group, and he would always play. He would always put on this one rule set where it was remote mines,
Okay.
which is kind of an odd choice. You might be thinking power weapons or automatic weapons or explosives, but his favorite one to pick was remote mines. And
Hmm.
I didn't learn until years later that he was just a pure screen watcher.
Oh, gotcha.
and he has a really great memory, so he got good enough at the game where he knew where all the spawn points were, and he would put remote mines next to the spawn points.
Oh my god.
As soon as you came back to life, he would just detonate them and kill you. So we were always blown away, like how he was so ungodly good at GoldenEye and with those freaking mines. Of course, like back then when I was a kid, it didn't click with me that he was cheating.
What a concept that I don't think half the people today would even understand is the concept of you don't screen watch.
Oh yeah, the younger generation doesn't know. They don't know
Oh my
about screen
god.
watching.
Ah, Jesus.
I've seen some pretty elaborate setups where people have like duct taped part of a cardboard
Yeah,
box.
I saw that too. Yeah.
Or they'll like put up a sheet halfway across the screen
Mhm.
so people can't screen watch.
Absolutely.
You can
Oh
say
my God.
anything about my mother, just don't call me a screen looker.
Oh yeah.
Oh my.
Screen watchers, screen lookers, screen peekers. They went by many names, but they
Yeah,
were all
they did.
dastardly foes. And it could never be proven either.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, like, who knows? I could have been looking at a corner of the television. You don't know. You can't prove anything.
I was
But I
checking my
know you did.
watch.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, GoldenEye's a great one to start this off with. And what a legendary like multiplayer game. Just to it's just fun to like I always feel like playing GoldenEye when you have 4 people on the system, it's fun for 3 out of 4 people.
Why is that?
Because you always have one person that like doesn't remember the control scheme or can't get
Is
the
that
hang of
you?
it and it's just like no, I mean I didn't play it a ton when I was younger, but I remember enough of it to at least pull in a respectable second or third.
Mm.
But there's always like one person who always winds up being the one that like doesn't remember the control scheme enough, so they're just getting bodied every time.
It is tough now, which is why it's another good reason to put on license to kill rules so that one hit kills and it's more fair and evened out.
Good point. There's a good point.
Yeah, and that makes it even more fun when you're playing throwing knives only or slappers only.
See, what happened is I slapped him in the shoulder and he exploded.
Slapped him in the shoulder and the James Bond theme music played.
I was about to say that freaking chord every time.
Da-da-da-da.
Wow.
Wow.
You know what though? That game itself not only was like the multiplayer fun to play, but just the sound of it was great. And I mean, obviously, you know, it was done by a legendary composer, Grant Kirkhope, the composer for like Banjo Kazooie and for Donkey Kong 64. But to take a source material like that, which like the music of the James Bond films was a big part of it that kind of contributed to the feel of it, and ultimately make it in a way that actually felt worthy of the actual like the title of the series itself and fit the feel of it is really kind of something. The music in that game is fantastic.
Yeah, it's a legendary game all around. Do you guys have another one on the? on that platform?
Yeah, I do. Yes,
sure
my
you do.
my very first N64 game was Mario Kart 64.
Yes, that's another one I want to talk about.
I literally just played this multiplayer with a few people 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
and I smoked them. But
oh yeah, you were telling us about that.
Yeah, there were a few people I work with, and you know, they were saying, yeah, one of them was saying, yeah, I'm pretty good at it. I play the game. I beat, you know, people in my family typically when we play. And I'm like, is that so? So when it comes time for Mario Kart 64, it was my first N64 game. I didn't get Super Mario 64. It was actually like the 4th one I got out of all of them. And the multiplayer was something I played with my father when I was a kid. He was it was really cool that he actually like learned how to play that, and we played Mario Kart a lot.
That's cool.
Yeah, and I got really stupidly good at it because I used to do like time trials racing the ghosts. I knew how many power slides I could get around every turn on each track. I mean, it was something. So playing the multiplayer in that game is an interesting thing because you could do it one of two ways. If you have 2 people, you can play the Grand Prix, which is just absolute complete chaos because you could be the greatest driver and luck would basically blue shell you or lightning you into 6th or 7th place without any kind of recourse. Or you can play.
It wasn't as bad as it is now, though.
No, that is very true.
There's some really obvious catch-up mechanics in today, whereas before it was just like, okay, you're in 8th place, we'll throw you a bone.
Yeah, exactly. And or you could play the versus. You could play strictly against that person or up to 4 people. And the funny part is that when I was a kid, I always wondered, like, when I play with 3 or 4 people, there's no music in the game. Here it turns out it's because having that many racers was so much of a tax on the actual system itself, it didn't have enough computing power left to run the music.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it was always a blast to play because, you know, that was another game where you wound up having rules, a meta being formed by people like, you know, no cheats, no shortcuts, like, you know, no taking the tunnel in Koopa Troopa Beach.
No Toad.
No, Toad was allowed. Yoshi was one that some of us had an issue with. That was definitely maybe it was different for you guys,
My
but
brother was always a
Yoshi.
Yoshi player. You're
Gotcha.
seeing a theme now with what I grew up with.
Oh yeah, no, I understand. Like the one shortcut in Mario Stadium. Did you ever try that one?
I've tried it. I was never really too good at the shortcut there. I don't think I've actually ever did it, but yeah,
So
growing
that
up,
per-
we didn't
oh, go
have
ahead.
any like set rules like you
Hmm.
might have with something like GoldenEye, like not pick an odd job. Yeah, actually, when I was growing up, we didn't have any sort of rules like that for Mario Kart, but I could see how that could happen.
I will say that the rules for Mario Kart uh that I played with didn't really arise as much until I went off to college, only because most people typically didn't take the shortcuts multiplayer, at least that I had played with when I was a kid.
Hmm.
It was kind of understood, like, be a jerk by doing that. But,
Oh no, always go
uh,
for the shortcuts. It's risk
but I,
reward because if you couldn't make it, then chances are you were losing time off of that. But if you did risk it and you got the shortcut, then
one,
you're
yeah,
good.
it's true. One of the biggest ones of risk reward was the skip on Rainbow Road.
Like you have to launch yourself into
Yeah, you
oblivion,
do.
right?
You have to make like a big left turn as soon as you hit the first ramp and try and land on the track on the other side. If you miss, you just keep going past for at least a good another 5 seconds after that. Have to go all the way back, and there's no playing catch up by that point.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
the game itself, it was a lot of fun to play. It was just one of those Nintendo titles where the replayability, um, in a multiplayer sense, was just off the charts. You could play 4 hours on end until you get tired of the tracks.
Oh yeah, they're great tracks. My favorite Mario Kart track is Koopa Troopa Beach,
Good
and
one. Yeah,
I also like Wario Stadium.
that was a fun
But
one.
yeah, a lot of good stuff. And then the nice part about it is that if you were getting tired of the racing, then you could turn it to that battle mode. They had a few tracks there that
Hmm.
were specific to that mode, and you could try and pop each other's balloons.
That was an
So
interesting multiplayer mode. I didn't play that a whole lot with people. It was always the racing.
yeah, I would do that 4 player a lot when I was a kid if we if we wanted just something different because back then we weren't as spoiled for options and you spent more time with a one certain game than you would now maybe.
Right.
But which there's nothing wrong with that because there were many good hours spent in Mario Kart 64.
Hmm.
But yeah, if we ever didn't want to do the racing, some days it was more of like a battle kind of day, and we would play that.
Did you have a favorite course?
Geez, there were like three, right? There was the rooftop, there's the
Hmm.
Bowser donut, and then there's the four squares, the different color squares.
Which one was the rooftop one? I remember the four square ones.
The rooftop, it had like a big hole in the
Oh no, I
middle.
remember. Yeah, it was like
Yeah,
a city. It looked like a
yeah. It looked
film
like you
noir
were
on
on
the
top
outside of it.
of a
Yeah,
skyscraper.
yeah, that's right. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh man,
Yeah. I guess the first one I think the one I think about first would be the four square
the
one.
4 block one. Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually now that I think about it, I think there were four courses. There was one that was kind of like the four different square ones, except it was like all green with lots of ramps, like kind of like a flat surface in the middle, but multi tiered. I forget the names of them,
Yeah, so do I.
but I think the one with the four colored squares was probably my favorite.
That was kind of the go-to because it was basically you basically had these 4 block forts that basically had 2 levels. They had like a mid-level and an upper level,
Hmm.
and the battles would typically wind up taking place either down on the ground
In the
itself or up on the
trench,
bridges
or on the bridges, and like
for items. Yep.
I always liked putting I liked putting fake blocks on the
Oh yeah,
bridges
nice.
and stuff
Hmm.
like that.
That was
Yeah,
always fun.
I think that
You know
was
what?
our
We're
go-to.
we're gonna have to try that at some point because we haven't played that as a group to play the battle mode yet.
Yeah, it's been years since I've played the battle on that.
That would be fun. I mean, it's that kind of replayability that kind of defined those N64 multiplayer games. And God, I mean, we're not even scratching the surface. I mean,
Another
Joe,
one that's
I know you didn't have a whole lot of experience with this, but I know Mark and I did. So,
Mhm.
Mark, you got another one there.
well, yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on it. Maybe if I don't want to beat a dead horse or leave Joe out of it, but another one that's worth mentioning is Mario Golf. I thought
Yeah.
that was a fun co-op game, and even if you're not a big fan of golf, like, golf is whatever, but I couldn't even tell you the last time I played the actual golf mode in the Mario Golf on N64. I mean, it's good, but usually I would go for the mini golf mode in that, because that was a blast. Yeah, that was a good time, and it kind of reminds me of how you were talking about taking shortcuts in Mario Kart, because there are some of the holes in the mini golf where you could kind of like turn around and there was an opening with a ramp or something, for example, and you could hit the ball in a way that you could kind of chip it up and over closer to the hole, but it was risk reward where if you messed up your shot, then you got screwed over.
Right.
But yeah, Mario Golf, another great multiplayer one, and of course Mario Party.
Oh yes, the bane of many people's palms for years.
The Mario Party Stigmata.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, that game is interesting because like some of those mini games are so brutal that like I swear some of them you would have needed like a turbo button on your controller to actually beat some of them. I was convinced like the one where you're charging up the light bulb with the boo chasing behind you.
Oh yeah, it's not as hard as you remember.
It probably isn't, but I mean like there was the
I do remember that one though. Like I remember when I was younger and we were playing that, like if you got stuck with pedaling that bike with the boo chasing you, that's one of the mini games you would just groan about when you saw it come up, because you're like, oh no, I'm gonna die.
There was always that one. Was the first Mario Party the one that also had like the 3-on-1 tug of war where the one person was in the Bowser suit and you had to roll the control stick?
Yep.
Oh my god. I mean, it's legendary. That first game definitely was like, this is our first attempt at this, and it certainly feels that way because that game, it's feast or famine. You either do well or you are getting destroyed.
Yeah, that's the only one I own. I think
we gotta get you Mario Party 2. Apparently, that's the best one of the N64 games in terms of like the Mario Party games.
Yeah, I want to try it. I don't think I've ever played Mario Party 2. It sucks because I think most of the Mario Party games are really expensive now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
$60 to $80 range.
Yeah, that's not surprising. Most of those games, the actual batteries are starting to kind of run dry at this point,
Yeah, that happens too.
Yeah, so I mean, it would definitely be cool to try it. Especially after watching the Game Grumps play it, that was entertaining. But those games were a fun time. But again, that was definitely one of those ones like GoldenEye where 3 out of the 4 people are probably having a really good time.
And one person's getting their stars stolen left and right.
Exactly. I mean, that's the nature of the way most couch co-op games typically went. Is that most of everybody was having a good time. One person was absolutely abysmal the entire time.
Well, but, maybe that brings us to the first lesson of what made playing on the couch such a golden experience, and that's not to be a dick.
That's a good point because you were in person.
Yeah, you had your buddies probably
within arm's reach.
Yeah, you were probably like at an uncomfortable distance. Your knees were touching on the couch playing this game. If you were if you were doing what you weren't supposed to do, then you could easily get ball tapped for that kind of behavior.
Oh, that's accurate. Oh my god.
You can't have that experience online.
Well, that's the thing is that, and even Joe and I were talking about this, one of the concepts that couch co-op brought along is the fact that, you're playing right next to the people you're playing against. So it behooves you to actually not be a jerk, which is something that online multiplayer has no compunction to do unless you're, playing something where like you're streaming and your face is, on the stream. The non-anonymity encourages you to actually behave yourself and not be a complete and utter jerk to people.
But on the flip side, I must interject.
Sure.
It is also fun to be that guy and do something like steal someone's star, be that dick, and then see the look on their face.
That is also a good point. But the thing is that, like, it eventually goes that 1 or 2 times, and then it stops, and everybody's usually relatively happy afterwards.
There's a hazing, like you
Oh my
better
God.
not steal from me again.
Oh my God. Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing I could say about online multiplayer that always kind of was a little bit of a letdown, is because, unless you're playing with your friends, and even if you are playing with your friends, you're playing against people who are anonymous online, and anonymity tends to bring out the worst in people when it comes time for gaming, because there's no
Oh,
repercussions
yes.
other than getting booted from a game,
Uh-huh.
which is why, like, people will go around and team kill in Halo, or anything that actually allows you to do so, because what's the consequence? They get booted from the game. It's not like
Yeah.
somebody's gonna, come and slap them upside the head and slap their parents upside the head for being a jerk.
Hmm.
That
So
should happen though.
yeah, I mean, it's that kind of stuff that that always kind of makes the couch co-op a lot more fun to do than to just play something online against people. And Joe, I know you I know there's something you probably want to talk about here.
Yeah, I mean, so I want to say this was probably like 8 months ago or something like that. So somewhere around my birthday, I picked up Rust, right, on Steam, because it went on sale. I was like, oh, I've seen a couple of people on YouTube playing it. It looks kind of fun. And so I don't know if you're familiar with Rust, Mark, but
Yeah.
Rust is one of those games that has a very brutal kind of like mentality about it. It's like,
It's a survival game, right? You
yeah,
can't start with nothing but like a rock and a loincloth. You got to build up.
yeah, and so like it's like yeah, exactly. I'm looking for like a saying, like, oh, it's like a dog eat dog world out there, like
Mhm.
you're on your
Very
own.
cutthroat.
Yeah, you got your
Cutthroat is a
rock,
good
you
way to
got
put
your
it.
torch, and you got nothing else, and you just gotta find a way to make it to the top and hope that your base doesn't get raided. And so I'm new to the game, and I go online. It's like, oh, if you want to like learn how to play the game, you go on like a community server and just kind of like practice the mechanics and learn how to build and all this, that, and the other. Look at YouTube tutorials on how to build bases. So I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. I'm really enjoying this game. I'm enjoying like the the gameplay loop and just playing by myself for the most part. And then about maybe, I want to say, like 3 weeks into playing on this server, right? I've got like a pretty decent chunk of like loot. I've got guns. I've basically got all of the tech trees almost completed. End game stuff. I just was too afraid to like get into like skirmishes with other players, because I was just like gonna lose outright. I just was not good at the combat. And so like I run into this guy, and he's like, oh yeah, we're practicing our our PvP stuff. You're more than welcome to come join us. I was like, all right, cool. He's like, yeah, you don't even need to bring weapons. We'll supply you with weapons, armor, meds, all that cool stuff. I was like, all right, cool, I'm down. Awesome. So then we're hanging out, we're having a good time, and we're like going, oh, you want to be really dope if we built like a PvP arena? So then we go on and start building up this arena, and then I'm like, oh, I got like chainsaws and stuff back at my base. I'll be right back. And I go and I get the chainsaws. We start cutting down trees. We start building up the arena, spending hours on this thing, just like with a couple of strangers, just building up a PvP arena.
Oh god.
And
just wait for the drop, Mark.
and so then the one guy's like, yeah, you were there and back again real quickly. Where's your base at? And I was just like, all right, well, we're pretty friendly at this point. I'll tell you where my base is. Biggest fucking mistake of my life, because like the moment that I told this dude where my base was, like he F1 killed himself, and it was just like, oh, he was like on a Discord party with his other two teammates, waiting to find out where I was, because he was just like, dude, this kid has been telling me like he's got all of his text trees done, he's got all these guns, this dude's got to be fucking loaded, right? So then like once him and his friends find out where I am, it's like a mad dash to figure out what like how to crack into my base. All the while, I'm with this other idiot just like building up the base, and all of a sudden we hear like explosions in the distance, and I was just like, huh, that's weird. There's explosions going off in the distance. And then I'm like, all right, hang on. I got to run back to my base real quick to pick up something. I'll be right back. And I go there, and all of a sudden I'm just like fucking obliterated because the dude is like camping right outside my base. Because like they had just gone in and they just cracked it open, and they're already like going through my stuff, and so they thought I was gonna like try to like counter their raid, but I was just going there to like pick up something.
Oh my god! Was there a way for you to know that these guys were like associated, or could it have been you were working with this guy and this was an unrelated event? Do you know?
Oh, well, the thing was, all I knew it was him who attacked my base, because it tells you who kills you and what weapon they kill you with. And I was just like, Oprah Windfury? What? Oh my god! And I was like, first of all, that's an incredible name. I even, like, after the fact, I was like, I had a conversation with the guys, and I was just like, dude, just want to, like, put it out there. Oprah Windfury is the best name I've ever seen. Like, the best gamer tag I think I've ever seen in my entire life. But before we had that, like, little bro moment of where we were just, like, kind of, like, hanging out and shooting the shit and talking for a little while, there was, like, a day of just like them harassing me every step and every turn. It got to the point where I was like, you know what, fine, you know what, I'll start over, I'll build a new base, they can have whatever they want, like whatever, I'll just start over. And you know, I slapped down a little starter base and called it a night. It was probably somewhere around like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I called it a night, and you know, I got up the next day. This was like a holiday, so we didn't have, you know, work the next day. And I log on, and I was offline raided by none other than Oprah Windfury. Just like fucking just killed me while I was logged out, because like your base and your character persist in the world even when you're like not logged in. And it's just like, all right, fine, dude, like you killed me again. So then I team up with the guy from the other night, because he was like, oh yeah, no, that sucks, dude. Let me help you out. So then we're going, all right, we need to get revenge on this dude, because like this is too much. And we're talking with other people on the server going, oh yeah, like we gotta like get back at this dude because he's being a shithead, right? And so we're making up a plan to like build up a base and barely get things down, and some dude starts opening fire at me, and then I, you know, return fire, I kill him, and then he's like, yo, why'd you shoot me? I was like, what do you mean? You shot first. He's like, no, I didn't. And it got into, like, the whole, like, long story short, like, the people that we were shit-talking Oprah Windfury to was his friends. And they were just like, all right, well, go ahead, keep talking. We're just gonna raid you again and again and again. To the point where, like, they were, you know, they were harassing me. And this other
wasn't that kind of obvious though? Because I mean, you're talking to a bunch of, you know,
people
guys
on the same server
who are associated with this guy. They're probably
the thing was, I had no idea, and the other guy that I was talking with had no idea they were all together on a Discord chat, because like they were all playing off like, oh yeah, we don't know, like he was raiding us too, but like they were all on the same team together, and yeah, they were just playing the part.
That's devious. Yeah, I had kind of a similar experience, not as bad though, with The Division. You remember that game? Yeah. So I played that for a couple weeks. Highly disappointing game, but it had one area where it was just like kind of like the free for all, anything goes, where there are players there and you can kill each other or be friendly. You don't know how people are going to behave. And I remember it was like the first time I went to that area, and I come into contact with another player, and I don't have my headset on. I'm not talking to him or anything. But I remember he was just like, hey man, there's a loot drop over here. There's like some good items over here. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, like this dude's helping me out. He's hooking me up. We're gonna go get some loot. And yeah, so he lures me down like this staircase, and I get down there, and all of his boys are waiting for him.
Oh
and,
no.
and like there was like I could hear what they were saying because there's a public chat channel that's going on when you're in that zone, so you can hear what the other people are saying, and they just like start rushing me, and they're just like, "Oh, yo, we got you," and they just immediately annihilate me. So I got jumped in the division.
Oh
So
God.
bad experience for me in that game, but on the flip side, probably a pretty authentic New York City experience. All things considered.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's that's the issue with those type of games, is that because there's that anonymity behind it, and because the game is designed that way, it encourages people to be the worst type of person possible. It's either kill or be killed, and those type of games can really kind of take their toll on your psyche. Like Mark, yours was a one-time deal basically, and that was it. Joe, you basically got serially harassed over a several day period.
Yeah, it was several days, and it got to the point where like even just like the thought of me like booting up my computer and running Rust, you know, was making me have like, you know, heart palpitations and start getting really anxious. And it got to the point where my girlfriend was like, maybe you should stop.
Yeah.
Like,
that's what you're signing up for with that game.
Yeah. I mean, that's you get what you pay for.
And you were trying to get me to play that with you,
right? Because I needed help.
No, man.
Well, you know, Russ is in a Discord chat with Oprah Winfrey, and he's telling him all of this shit.
Oh, Russell, how could you?
Nah, like I told Joe, with that kind of situation, I have a much lower tolerance for that kind of nonsense. Like if that kind of stuff happens with a game, like yeah, I'm not playing this again. This is ridiculous. Because you know when I play something, you know, I don't mind having a good challenge with something. How can I put it? I don't mind going insane of my own volition. What I don't need is somebody helping me go insane. You know? And in those type of situations, you know, those people are being absolute jerks. The game is encouraging them to do that because there's no incentive not to. So why would you want to continuously play a game like that if you're not in on the ground level to get way above everybody else? Now, I know that game was kind of well known for it wiped everything clean like every week or 2 weeks, something like that. Is that right,
depended on the server. There's servers that wipe everything clean once a week. There's bi-weekly, and then there's monthly servers. I was playing on a monthly server, and so by the time that
they had a huge collection build up.
Yeah, so like by the point that I was in at 3 weeks in, playing on the same server, building up my base and my, you know, my loot and all that stuff, that was easily like 40 to 50 hours worth of just me playing that game, just gone in that instance. And I was just like, oh my god, where the fuck did all that time go to?
Mark, it would be like if we were playing Fallout 76 and somebody was able to like attack you and tear everything down and take all your stuff and it was permanently gone.
Oh yeah, I know, which is why I don't play survival games.
Yeah, honestly, that's part of the reason I'm not a big fan of them either, is because it encourages the worst in people. It's how can I put it? I'm going to get philosophical for a second. There's a philosophical argument concept, whatever you want to call it, called the tragedy of the commons. Basically, where everybody had animals that need to graze in this common area, and there's grass enough for everybody to graze the same amount of times it covers everybody's need per day. But then eventually somebody starts getting greedy and taking more than their fair share, so then the next person does, and the next person does. And it's funny because there are some survival games that actually give you enough in the game for everybody to survive, but because some people get greedy about it, it becomes a free-for-all on human nature. And I feel like Rust is one of them. I forget what that survival game was. There's It was a pretty famous survival game. Joe, you may actually
Is
know it. It
it?
was like a zombie survival game, I
Oh,
think. It
oh,
took place on
oh,
like a
oh,
dead
oh,
island or
yes.
something.
No, 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 not
Daisy?
Dead Island. DayZ. Yes, that's exactly what it
DayZ.
was.
Okay.
It,
Yeah.
well, the thing about DayZ was like the whole like thing of that game was you were just supposed to like survive in the open world zombie apocalypse, but it got to the
Yeah.
point where like that was so boring.
Secondary.
Yeah, that was almost like, oh, geez, here comes another zombie. Okay, like the whole like draw of that game was the PvP,
That
And
kind
that
of
was the
reminds
thing is
me
that, like,
of The Walking Dead.
yeah,
yeah, I mean, that game supposedly had enough stuff in each server when you're playing through that everybody could survive just fine if everything was, doled out equally and there was enough reasonably for everybody. But because people got greedy about it, well, that's what happened.
Mhm.
Well, in a game like Rust, where it's a survival game like that, you could help each other out, or you can have what happens is when people get greedy about it, and next thing they know, they ruin it for everybody.
Well,
As
then,
as a,
well, the thing about it is like I understand like the whole, going around and fighting and killing each other
Mhm.
for your stuff. The thing
Yeah,
that like really kind of like gets to me is
is the rating of the
is the
base.
rating of the bases, which I understand is also part of the game because there's like,
Right.
you can get rocket launchers and C4 just to specifically meant to like break the stronger like walls that you can put up
I
on
mean,
your
that's
base,
that's
but
fine, but they at least shouldn't take all the stuff away from you. Like, it should be something where everything gets torn down and destroyed, and you have to rebuild, not that you have to refind everything again.
yeah. Well, I mean that's
There
Rust.
should be something with those kind of games uh, to get someone like me more on board. Like, if there
Mhm.
was some sort of persistent progress, like if you had schematics, like you knew how to
Well,
build a certain thing, like at
that
that stage.
Rust does have something like that. It's like it's called the blueprint system where um your blueprints can persist between wipes unless it's like a monthly, once a month your blueprints wipe, right? So
Right.
that's kind of like your progression. But in between wipes, say you're on a server that wipes monthly and then wipes your blueprints month, or what was I saying?
Monthly.
It wipes weekly, but blueprints always wipe monthly because there's always a new update that comes out every month. So, and that's why. Um, so in between server wipes, you still keep your progression, and then it wipes every month, right? And so like you can still maintain some sort of progress, but like the actual physical things that you collect are gone. That's it. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. But
Yeah.
yeah, this discussion reminds me of something I heard about from World of Warcraft that happened a long time ago, where there was some sort of bug, some sort of glitch in the game where it kind of released this a virus kind of thing
Mm-hmm.
that certain player characters would were affected with, and it did something pretty destructive to you. It would, like, I think it would gradually lower your HP. So and this was totally a glitch. This wasn't like some kind of event or something that was planned for. This was kind of running rampant in the game, and I heard that it was kind of interesting to see how it played out, because some people were choosing to like help out, and like if they were a healer class, for example, they could try and like keep the players who had the virus sustained and keep them alive.
Mm-hmm.
But then there were other players who were taking advantage of it and passing it on intentionally and using the event to create chaos.
Yeah.
And I think there are articles that are written about it, and it's actually an event that sociologists study as like an actual response to what a like, pandemic could be.
Oh no.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's not a good sign. But I
yeah, but
think I think the issue there is that, like, those type of games, they foster that general play mechanic,
Mm-hmm.
and instead of people working together, people decide that they're just going to be a jerk about it. And Joe and I even talked about this too with the game. We were talking about that old psychological experiment from the '60s with, like, like the guards and the prisoners experiment.
Yeah, it was the
Am I-
Stanford prison
Yeah,
experiment.
that was actually probably one of the major tests that caused psychological tests to actually have to have specific standards, and everything had to be talked about up front that they were going to be testing, because it devolved real quickly in that Stanford test, to the point where it basically shows you that like people who have the power in a situation very rarely will contain themselves and not use that power to their advantage. And in a game like Rust, if you have people in a position like Oprah Winfrey was, and had all these weapons and had the ability to do so, they're not really going to be happy to stop at just having the stuff they already have. They're going to wield their power
Mm-hmm.
and swing that stick around.
Yeah, and it even got to the point. So there was kind of a little bit of a happy ending with the story, because after they just like completely demolished me again, and they were like harassing me and telling me, oh, you're trash, get off this game, get off the server, this, that, and the other. And I was like, guys, I just want to play the game. It like, if I build it, I was like, if I build another base away from you guys, are you gonna attack me again? And they're like, yeah, we are. It's like, but why? I just want to play the game. And then I think they were like, all right, this dude, like, he's beat down, he's done, like, let's throw him a bone here. So they're like, all right, you want to see how good we are? All right, come to our base. We're about to get off the server anyway because it's dead. So they invite me back to their base, and they showed me their. First of all, it was like massive, right? It's humongous base, but also packed to the gills with like late game weapons and everything, like stuff that 3 players didn't need. It was enough to.
They just had it because they could.
Right, and so they were just raiding people because they were bored.
Yeah,
makes sense to me.
And so like it was just like, all right, cool. So my 40 to 50 hours worth of me playing and grinding was just for them to have fun with because they were bored. And that just still to this day just doesn't sit well with me, and probably why I'll never go back to play Rust, because
you could have played a lengthy RPG in that amount of time.
Yeah,
and had a much better time. Seriously, this is one of the reasons that I don't get involved with games like that, is because I'd rather succeed or fail on my own type of situation than to have somebody decide that I was the person that they wanted to destroy their existence. That's why I'm glad Skyrim's not, an MMO on that type of scale, because I'm pretty sure I would have. I mean, we played ESO, but I mean, people can't go around doing that kind of stuff. I'm just glad that you can't do that kind of stuff in the majority of, MMOs basically. And it sucks to deal with, because it takes all the fun out of the game. Like if the company's sole idea is like, hey, we want to get more people to play this game, the worst thing you can do is make a game where the word of mouth is going to spread that it's a game full of a bunch of toxic players.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to want to buy it.
Hey,
well,
it's fun for them.
Yeah,
it's fun for them, but if you make a game that's only fun for the toxic players, the only fun will be, spectating, watching all the toxic players pick each other apart, because that's eventually where it gets to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, and there's like YouTubers that I still watch that play Rust, and I'll still go back and watch the videos. I have no problem with.
Yeah, it scratches that itch without having to put a piece of your own,
right,
like,
right, but like
into it.
Even when they're not being toxic, you can still, like, the toxicity is very palpable in the culture in that game, and it's just something that I don't necessarily want a part of anymore. But like the thing that kind of like keeps bringing me back to it is the gameplay loop was incredibly satisfying, and the base building was incredible. Like, hands down, best base building mechanic of any game I've ever seen. It's really simple. It gives you just like a set templates of like pieces of, foundation and floors and ceilings and walls and all that, and everything just snaps together, and you can build these really elaborate, really complicated, very pretty bases. But at the end of the day, even if your base is like really well designed, really pretty, and all that, it's
gonna get torched.
It's gonna get exactly, because they don't care about the player base doesn't care about what your base looks like. They just want to see what's inside.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's kind of unfortunate because it just sounds like the gameplay cycle basically is just an id on steroids. Do the worst things possible, everybody out for themselves, screw everybody else. And that doesn't lead to a fun game. And it's actually a very shallow type of experience even for the people who do well. Because as you noted, they even said like they did extremely well and they went out and raided other people because they were bored.
Yeah.
Not because it was going to get them ahead. They were bored.
Yeah. They were on top. They were top dogs on the server, and they wanted it to stay that way.
Yeah.
So they were just raiding people.
No, it didn't even sound like they wanted to stay that way. It just sounded like they were bored and decided to do it out of boredom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just, it's kind of like when you're the best at something and then it gets boring because there's nobody better than you to go up against.
Mm-hmm.
And so some people, if it's like a sports type of situation, like if you're the best in pro sports situation, best player out there, there may not be anybody better than you, but you could still consistently win something that isn't making other people's lives miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Here, they're just making other people's lives miserable because they can and they're bored.
Yeah. And
That's extremely toxic.
And I don't know if it was necessarily like a me thing where I just took it personally because it was just that time investment, But like when I watched
you took it personally because you put the time into the game because you wanted to enjoy it.
Yeah, but like when I watch these people playing it on YouTube or on Twitch or whatever, like they're just really chill about it, and they're like, "All right, cool, I lost all my stuff. I'll try again later." Like that sort of.
That's extremely frustrating to me. I don't know how you feel about it, Mark, but I wouldn't want to get involved in that.
No, I mean that type of game in general was never appealing to me. Even aside from the PvP elements, just I personally, I'm just not drawn to games where a lot of the focus is on building something up and crafting and harvesting resources and that kind of thing. It's just not for me. I know there's a huge player base out there for that kind of thing.
Oh, I love games like that.
It's the same reason I don't play Minecraft, and neither do you, Mark.
Yeah, I've never played Minecraft.
I love Minecraft.
Again,
yes, I know you do.
There are tons of fans for that. It's a mega popular game, but it's just not something for me. It's just not my genre.
Fair enough. Now, we can definitely talk about some games that the couch co-op definitely is one of the main draws, especially with LAN parties, but the online itself can get a little toxic in certain spots. And I speak, of course, of the first-person shooters such as Halo. So,
I love me some Halo.
Oh, yes, I do.
Yes, I have many good memories of having LAN parties, doing System Link with a couple OG Xboxes. I still do it. I mean, I haven't done it with the pandemic going on. It's kind of tough. A lot of the guys who I would invite over to do that kind of thing with have young kids, so you don't want to invite them to something like that where they could potentially be at risk for COVID. But hopefully we can get back to that soon, get back on track. But yeah, I love having game nights, and I always set up 2 Xboxes for System Link. Love playing Halo, mainly Halo 2.
Agreed.
Halo's fun, but Halo 2 is the go-to. Love it.
I think the interesting part of it is that Halo was one of the main progenitors of probably what was seen as the original toxic gesture in an online multiplayer game.
What, the teabag?
Of course. Yep, it was one of the main progenitors of it. But the thing is that it had become so ubiquitous that it's almost not even really an issue anymore. It's kind of unusual if you don't do that to somebody in that game.
Well, it was kind of funny that you mentioned that because going back into Rust, there was one time that I just jumped onto a Face Punch server. Face Punch is the developer for Rust, so it's like an official server, and I had this sword or whatever, and a couple of naked dudes came up to me and tried to kill me because they wanted my sword, and I dunked on them so hard to the point where I was like pumped full of adrenaline, and I teabagged the one guy, and he's like, "Oh, come on, man, you killed me. Why'd you have to teabag me?" And I was like, "Oh, sorry."
It's like, I'm sorry, it's a force of habit now.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was just rock hard from killing you and your friends.
I mean, it's, that's the thing, is that in a game like Halo, that kind of gesture, it's like, yeah, probably at the first few years that happened, it was frustrating to have somebody do that to you. But now it's kind of like, yeah, all right, fine, whatever. It's just, you're almost kind of like, fine, if they must feel the need to do that, fine, no problem.
Well, I don't know why you're focusing on cold hard Spartan nutsacks, but when I think about Halo 2 back in the day, that's not where my mind wanders.
No, I understand that. I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is more or less the player interaction, because the game itself for playing Halo 2 is an absolute blast of couch co-op, and it's even still fun online too.
Oh yeah, love me some Halo 2. If you have a chance to system link some Xboxes, good times right there. You can get some 4-on-4 going on. So good. So good. I've just been doing it for so long now. Ever since really Halo 2 came out. It didn't take long for us to, have a group of people over. One person brings an Xbox, one person maybe brings a spare TV if you didn't have one. Everybody brings their controllers. You kind of piecemeal it together. It's this patchwork.
That was always fun.
And trying to remember whose controller is plugged into which port, so you go home with the things you came with.
And it was always probably good that everybody brought their own controller, because if not, everybody had like 2 good controllers and that one Mad Catz controller that nobody wanted.
Fucking Mad Catz, man. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Everybody. Yeah, there's that off-brand controller that just felt like a jagged piece of plastic in your hand. Yeah, I remember I had I had a friend come over one time. Actually, our friend Pat.
Oh, okay.
He came over one time to play some GameCube, and he brought an off-brand controller, and it looked really cool because it was clear, so you could see the inside of it, and it had these red lights going through it. It lit up when you plugged it in. It looked cool. Problem was that when you plugged it in, it would emit this high-pitched sound. This just high pitch, it's almost the kind of sound like when
a dog whistle.
Like when a CRT TV is on, but it's not on a real channel, but you can still hear it.
Oh god, the snow?
No, not the snow. It was like
it like a high pitch whining.
Oh, okay.
Just a high frequency sound. That's what the controller would make. And I remember he went to leave that day, and he left the controller, and I was just like, Pat, here's your controller. You want don't forget this. And he was just like, no, I want this to stay here. I do not want this controller anymore. I think I still have that in a bin somewhere.
Nice. Oh my god.
But yeah, the controllers, they suck, which is, it was fine doing the patchwork kind of piecemeal thing back in the day, but now as an adult, like I said, I still like setting up the 2 consoles. So instead of having that going, because nowadays you have 2 friends who's like an hour or 3 hours late, and they're the guy who is like bringing 3 of the controllers, so you can't play until they get there. So I just skipped all that, and I have 2 nicely functioning OG Xboxes. Yeah, I have a System Link cable, a couple spare TVs, and I actually have 10 Xbox controllers now.
Oh yeah, you do. That's right. You have a lot.
Yeah, I had 8 so that we could do 4-on-4 System Link, and I didn't have to rely on anyone else bringing stuff. But then at a yard sale a couple of years ago, I found someone who had a couple Duke controllers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I was late to the Xbox by a little bit, so I actually never had the Duke. So I got 2 Duke controllers.
I hated the Duke. I could not. Hated the controller. Loved the Genesis album Duke, but it's just like I could not handle a controller that big, and it just felt awkward to move the control sticks on it. It was was weird. And I had one as a kid too, but I also had one of the small controllers, which again became like the progenitor for the 360 controller and
Yeah,
the more
the
recent ones.
Model S controller.
It was so much better to work with.
I have 8 Model S's, and then I got 2 of the Dukes. I'm not sure if I've even played with them yet, because usually I'll offer them up to other people. Like our friend Dan, he actually prefers the Duke. So when we
I never
play,
understood that.
I'll toss one his way. So I don't even know if I've gotten a chance to play with one yet, but maybe next time.
I've tried, and playing Halo on that I always found was really tough because of how big your hands have to be spread apart. You can't get a good grounding of your fingers to make precise movement to the control stick without feeling like you have to like constantly readjust your hands. That was the part I always hated about it. And I'm just wondering like who thought it was a good idea to make a controller that big for the system. And like did the guy designing this, like was he 6'6" and like 250 pounds or something?
Man, yeah, I remember the first time having that in my hands, thinking like this thing is gargantuan, and then, but I mean, now as an adult, I have pretty big hands. It might be more comfortable for me. I'll have to check it out. I don't know if I've actually played with it yet.
It's just kind of funny too because like that game is those games are such a blast to play co-op that half the fun of it is eventually the interactions you wind up forming, but also like the rules you wind up putting into effect. Like I remember one time we were playing System Link and we were playing King of the Hill. And our friend Enrico was getting a little miffed at me because I was actually using my phone to time out the hill changes. I was putting a minute timer on every time. I'm like, okay, listen, I remember, Joe, you were there for this, and I was like, we're getting in the huddle, and I'm like, all right, now listen, best way we could do this is that the best way we could do is that like with the last 5 seconds, we'll leave the hill and go to the next one. That way we get there and get the jump on it. And I was timing out the hill changes with my phone.
Wasn't that when Enrico punched you?
He did punch me in the arm for it.
See, that's the joys of couch co-op, and
it also didn't help that I'm a trash talker sometimes about it.
Yeah, you know how to push his buttons, and he's not someone you being you
push his buttons naturally. I'm a natural button pusher, but only for certain people.
Yeah, but he was pissed off at that. But that's not an experience you would have had if we were playing online.
That's true. No, in that case, you would have gotten, we've gotten some interesting rage messages before. Mostly Enrico has, from people we've played on, Halo Online against or on MCC as well. And most of those are usually things where he winds up killing somebody in game. And somebody who has a way too high pitched voice, more than they should, sends him a rage filled voice message, usually about killing people with a fuel rod cannon, but a fuel rod gun. But oh my god, it's been interesting. But the funny part is we didn't really see a whole lot of that for a while because it didn't really have a system for sending this kind of messages or having a chat function in MCC or even Halo 4 previously up until recently. So, since we still play it, we start to see ones where there's a lot of trash talking going on between people in matches.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always interesting to watch because it's an element that I wasn't really used to seeing in Halo all that much when you played online because we never played on PC. So, it's been interesting to watch, but also at the same time, it's kind of like I don't want to participate in this, but I'm enjoying watching this from the sidelines. But there again, it's not like somebody's ruining somebody's entire existence. It's just a game. Why you have to be mad?
Yeah, well, so lots of great memories with Halo, but what about other games on the original Xbox that are great for couch co-op? I think there might be 1 or 2 other games. What do you guys got?
Well, I mean, there's 4 controller ports. There's got to be some more games.
I don't know. Like the Battlefront? You mean like Battlefront? Of course, Battlefront.
That's what I'm leading towards.
Oh, yeah, Star Wars Battlefront was great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed that I was late to that party. I mean, I mentioned our friend Pat earlier. I actually, back in the day, went over to his place and played that game with him a couple times. And I enjoyed it, but I think I was in like kind of frame of mind where I was getting a little older, and I didn't think like like I felt a certain way about Star Wars and liking Star Wars things, and I didn't pay much attention to it. But then when I got older, like I don't know, like mid-20s, when I bought a whole bunch of my System Link Xbox stuff, I picked up 2 copies of Battlefront 1 and 2 so I could System Link it, and
Good
I'm glad
choice.
that I did. I went through the campaigns for both, had a blast, and
Oh yeah,
They're great.
oh yeah,
they're
the
great games. I
multiplayer
mean,
was
the funny part
fantastic.
is that like, yeah, that too. I mean, that's you almost have to have a decent sized television to be able to play that because it's so small when you're playing like 4-person split screen. But the battles are huge, you know, in comparison to something like Halo, where it's at max you may have like 16 people all together. Yeah, you could do System Link for Battlefront, but there's also all the AI soldiers as well, vehicles being run around, and it's really cool to have that many people all at once. And there's still a really even online. There's a really vibrant community for that for the PC version that you do not want to step foot anywhere into unless you are an absolute master at that game. But the thing is, it was a lot of fun to play, and I kind of get what you're talking about with that whole like feeling Star Wars kind of wasn't like a thing. Like it was kind of like a little too young for you at the time because there was about a year period where that hit me for a little while. Post after where the prequels came out, and then all of a sudden, like that switch got flipped back off, and it was back to normal. And so I could definitely understand that for a little bit. But they were fun. Those games were cool.
Oh yeah, yeah, more good ones, and not just the Battlefront games, but then there's the
Jedi Knight.
Jedi Outcast and Jedi Academy games. They have fun multiplayer too. They did a great job of putting lightsaber type of fighting in the games, and I think both of them had it so that you could switch to more traditional blasters, like for long range fighting, and it would actually transition from first to third person. You'd be third person if you had the lightsaber, and then if you had the gun, it was first person. So that was really cool, and you had force powers, and that's another great couch co-op experience.
Oh yeah, that's a good time. Except if you wind up pushing people off the edge of cliffs or bridges.
I love that. That's my favorite.
Ring out. Oh my god.
Yeah, I like to treat it like it's Soul Calibur, and I upgraded my force push ability, and I just throw people into deep chasms. Love it.
I mean, technically you're getting rid of them, but I mean, come on, man.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Oh, I know you do.
Yeah.
It's a good one. There was a lot of good ones for the original Xbox. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. The PS2 only had 2 controller ports normally, right?
Yep.
It did, and they sold a multi-tap for the PS1 and the PS2, but that's the problem that you run into when your support for more than 2 controllers hinges on a peripheral that people have to buy separately.
Yeah.
So because you needed a multi-tap to play with more than 2 players, that discouraged developers from adding modes that supported more than 2 players because they would only be capturing a small portion of the market with those game modes. So why waste the resources?
Well, see, I think that's the one thing that led Xbox to being one of the big couch co-op ones before the advent of and then 64, and even the GameCube as well. I mean, there's one game series we're completely forgetting about that we haven't mentioned, and I know some of our friends would be aghast we haven't.
Yeah, I'm astonished we haven't.
Yeah,
Smash Bros.
I wanted to mention Smash Bros when we were talking about N64, but we had moved on at that point.
I think part of the reason is that like the original N64 Smash Bros is iconic. But if I had to choose one to play, that I was gonna say like this feels like Smash Bros.
Is it Brawl?
Even to this day, it's Melee.
Oh,
that's the one that feels like it. Melee is a great one. It's still the one that actually is the main Smash Bros. That gets entered into like fighting game tournaments. To this day.
Yeah, the one on 64, it was fun to play back then, but nowadays, like, you can tell the system just isn't up to the challenge. Like,
absolutely,
there can be lots of slowdown when there's lots of things going on the screen. It was a good start, but it had a really small roster in comparison to the other games in the series. Still a lot of fun, but it was definitely the most like it was the basic one. It was kind of just the building blocks. They didn't really have it all down there yet.
It was ambitious, but a little too ambitious for what the N64 could handle, and the I guess the best way I can put it is that it didn't feel like the full incarnation of it because, when you got to melee, you started having the first time with like having your side special attacks. You had all the higher advanced techniques, your wave dashes, your different shields, your dodges in air, all the stuff that basically wound up being the things that all the more modern games were based upon prior to having the trip mechanics, the random trip mechanics in Brawl. And with Melee, it felt like what Smash Bros would basically continue to be. And it was a great game. I played a ton of it multiplayer when I was younger, and it's still fun to play to this day,
Yeah, I played a lot of Super Smash Bros on the 64. Yeah, I think if I had to pick a favorite Smash Bros, it would probably just be Ultimate. Even though I don't have a
Okay.
Switch, just from the few times I've played it when other people brought it around,
Mhm.
I like it. It looks good. The controls it controls fine. It's nice and smooth, and then of course that
Mhm.
roster is the main draw. It has everyone. It has I like how it has Solid Snake, because I think he skipped one, right? They made one for
Yeah, they skipped the one
Wii
for the
U.
Wii U.
Yeah, because he was in Brawl, which I loved. He was my favorite character to use in Brawl. And
You
then
and I played a lot of that. Me
yeah,
as Link and you as Solid Snake in Brawl.
oh yeah, you remember my Nikita missiles?
Don't even bring that up. Oh
I
my god.
terrorized everyone with those. But yeah,
Yep.
I
Oh
loved
my
playing
god.
as him in there. And then he wasn't in the Wii U, which I didn't play too much of either, because
I didn't either.
I didn't have a Wii U. But yeah, now he's back with everyone else in Ultimate, and there are all sorts of characters, and that's awesome. The more characters, the better, in
True.
my opinion, for like a fighting game like that. So yeah, whenever I do get a Switch, I'll pick up Smash Ultimate.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a lot of fun to play. A good example of don't play it online, not because, the interactions you deal with, but because Nintendo's online service is completely janky.
Yeah,
So,
Nintendo's service sucks.
yeah. So, that's almost like you have to play it co-op, and it's a blast. Once they introduced like 8-player like brawls all together,
That's nuts.
that it's crazy. It is basically to stay out of the fray until there's only a few people left. Then you can actually fight if you want to win.
Yeah, but Russ, let's be honest. That's your strategy even when there's four people.
Don't tell them all. No.
I've known
Um,
for years, my friend.
I mean, the funny part is like we used to always play. We used to play Smash first thing back at college after like for the start of each semester. We
Yeah.
played for about a good week, and then we didn't play any more for the rest of the semester for good reason. Because those games, while they were a blast to play, they were friendship breakers. Um, like if
Yeah,
you played them too much, you got like everybody was dug in on what characters they used and had certain strategies, like using the Nikita missiles, me with the spin attack as Link, our pal Danton with Donkey Kong, and carrying people off the side and.
yeah. I'm thankful for those days though, because like growing up, I didn't play a whole lot of Smash Bros. Like I played here and there
Mhm,
on the 64, mainly on my own.
mhm,
That wasn't a game that was a go-to for big groups of people. I only played that multiplayer maybe just a handful of times,
same.
and then kind of same for Melee. I didn't play against other people too much. If I did, it might have been just like a one-on-one match with my brother, something
Mhm.
like that. So it wasn't really until I got to college and started playing with you guys, and I started actually playing more against other people, and yeah, I think I got my skills up over those years.
Oh yeah.
I
Uh-huh.
got much better at the game than when I started.
Again, another example of a game where a meta evolves around it that wasn't originally not designed for, but wasn't an intended thing in the game. Because, obviously for all those who played Smash Bros, if you keep all the items on, it becomes a chaotic mess. Most people, if they want to have a straight up match, they take all the items off completely.
Yeah, we usually play without the items nowadays,
We do.
but
Yeah.
if I'm being honest, I like having the items on just to add some more chaos and just some more goofy fun to it.
I
I
will
think
say, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna say the next time that we do get together and play it, I would be inclined to try and turn at least some of the items on, just because it's really easy for people to get pissed off at each other when they're playing Smash Bros.
Yeah.
But when you have when you have the items turned on and someone wins because, like, I don't know, they threw a Pokeball down and Lugia freaking launched someone off the world, then like it's easier to forgive. Like, oh, okay, that was some RNG that got me there.
It takes the anger factor out of it, and I think that's one thing that I liked that Smash Bros did and got right, is that, it can get very easy to get mad at the people you're playing against if they're consistently beating you or are just, look, we've all dealt with that where we played a game that somebody was, better than us on, a semi-regular basis or a fairly regular basis, and it can get really frustrating and you stop wanting to play. Having that chaotic factor of the items, like the Pokeballs especially, can really kind of take the sting out of it and make the replay value a lot higher. And you know what? That's a great idea too, because it makes it more like, okay, we're doing this for fun, not to have like, a match for dominance. Yeah.
Yeah, because like I'm never gonna be a competitive Smash player. I only
Neither
play
am I.
it
Yeah.
a couple times a year, if that.
Mhm.
I don't, I know I'm never gonna be one of the most skilled players in the room, and I don't care about that. But
Yeah.
I'm just trying to have a good time, and that's one of the reasons why I enjoy playing Fiesta mode in Halo. And for
I was
those,
going to say, it's like the action sack of Smash Bros. Essentially, is having all the items on.
yeah. For those of you who don't know, when you're playing Fiesta and Halo, when you spawn, every time you spawn, your primary and secondary weapons are randomized. So, sometimes you could get smoked right away because someone starts with a rocket launcher, and then sometimes on your next life you might spawn with a plasma rifle. So,
Oh my god.
so that makes it fun, and I think it tempers down the tri-beards that are out there.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that a lot of times when you start playing games and taking the chaotic factor out of it, it becomes a match for dominance, and it takes the game from being fun and can make it really competitive and kind of ugly pretty quickly.
Well, I'm all for balanced gameplay and competition and everybody being on an equal playing field. But with the example of Halo, for instance, I love playing the game, and I wish that our play group could be more consistently competitive in a standard match.
Right.
But the fact is that there are so many teams out there that can just wipe the floor with us, and after a while of getting beaten down like that, it can be really frustrating. So it's nice to switch over to something more chaotic like Fiesta.
Fair point. No, that's exactly right. And I'm glad we finally started doing that, because, that kind of thing keeps people from wanting to just shut off the game and not play it for a while.
Yeah, I'd rather, instead of putting the controller down and not playing Halo again for who knows how many months, I'd rather just switch it over to Fiesta. I mean, it's not as satisfying because you're not, if you win, it's not on that level playing field, and it's more of a kind of it's a party mode.
Yeah,
in a way.
Sometimes you need that though.
Yeah, it's still just fun to play. When I'm playing Fiesta, I'm still playing Halo, and I can have a good time with that, and might not have to worry as much about getting stomped.
Absolutely. And I think it's definitely a good thing that a lot of the biggest multiplayer series have out there, is that they have something like that allows you to play something that is casual, and you can kick back and play it, and it's not competitive, and you can just kind of chill out and have a good time playing it, rather than having to be like uber competitive the entire time and wanting to put your controller through your television screen because somebody like sniped you from halfway across the world for the 5th time in a row and then decide to teabag your corpse. So, it's
they snipe you from across the world and they somehow also teabag you. How does
yeah,
that
like
work,
snipe you from across the world and then like just make a dead run across the map and teabag your corpse and then continue to snipe. Because as we know, my issue with snipers is that they always seem to be a little OP, and by little I mean a lot of OP in pretty much every game you play.
Russ hates snipers.
I don't like them. Actually, Halo is probably one of the ones I feel like the snipers are the most balanced, because it's not a one-hit kill unless you get it right on the head. So, if somebody's gotten that good at sniping, fine. Good for them in a game like that. Battlefield and Call of Duty, it always kind of drove me nuts, but it is what it is.
Call of Duty is pretty generous. I mean, usually if it's above the waist, it's a one shot, one
That's
kill.
that's because you're shooting a 50 caliber rifle, which will probably rip a human in half if it hits him anywhere above the hip. So yeah, that's definitely a one hit kill. In Halo, you're a 7 foot tall cyborg, so it would make sense if it hits you in the shoulder, it's not going to obliterate you completely, and you have a shield. So I mean, not to get on that rant again about snipers, but I see with things like Battlefield and things like Call of Duty, they don't really have modes like that are prominently featured if they have them at all. And that's why it tends to lead to people either being really good at the game and continuing to play it all the time because they win, or going on winning and losing streaks and just not playing the game for a while when they go on a losing streak because there's nothing else to alleviate that frustration.
Well, I know Call of Duty, at least back in the day, I don't know if it still does, but it used to have like game modes where like
Like
gun game and infected were always like my go-to when I would play, because infected in particular was one of those games where it'd say it was like a server or a match of like 12 people, to be one infected person where you would run around with the knife and just try and melee people, versus 11 people with guns, but every person you killed that got infected would then join your team.
Right.
So that was a nice little way to kind of like break the team deathmatch and search and destroy. Yeah.
Well, Russ, you're gonna like the next Battlefield game because there's that Portal mode we were talking about on a previous episode where, you can kind of create a custom game type and do whatever crazy nonsense you want.
I only have one change. I mean, I basically would want to play the game as is, just remove snipers. That's it. Everything else is good.
That's not gonna happen, buddy.
I know it's not going to happen because it's Battlefield and the most OP class out of all of them is the medic. But
I feel like don't even get killed a disproportionate amount of times by snipers in Battlefield.
Not in that game. It's always medics with marksman rifles every time. And like, the balancing is, well, medics can't beat vehicles. I'm like, yeah, except like everybody and their grandmother who uses a vehicle, unless you actually are semi-competent with it, winds up losing the vehicle within 5 seconds of getting inside of it. So Battlefield 1 has scarred me somewhat, even though I do love the game.
Russ is a bitter old man.
Yeah, it was definitely the latter before the former, but I definitely came to be both of those shortly thereafter. So, yeah. Snipers. Hate them. Can't stand them.
Mm-hmm.
Take them out of the game.
Do you guys have any more good couch co-op or local multiplayer games you want to bring up from the N64 or original Xbox?
There's one I always thought was kind of interesting. That was an interesting attempt made at it, even though it didn't start on the N64. I always thought Pokemon was kind of a cool thing for like for a couch co-op, especially when Pokemon Stadium came out. And it was always kind of cool that there was like the multiplayer mode there, and I wish they had kind of fleshed it out more in later games with double battles, that you could like have a few people, like have 4 people playing against each other and controlling like what they pick for moves.
Sadly, I had pretty much everything I could have asked for Pokemon related when I was a kid, but never had the Stadium games, so I missed out.
Stadium was actually one of the main things that kept me involved in Pokemon for the years up until the advanced generation came out, because I mean, as we all know, the original Pokemon games, Red and Blue and Yellow, are good, but there's no post game except for Catch Mewtwo, and Gold and Silver. That's an issue I've spoken about before and will surely speak about again, where the games are good, but again, no post game after you're done with Kanto. So in essence, the Pokemon Stadium games were the post game for those. I spent countless hours on those games, especially like since the first Stadium game, you could like grind through the Gym Leader Castle, beat the Elite Four, and you could get one of the starter Pokemon or another Eevee or one of the fossils or one of the Hitmons.
Cool.
That
I
was.
didn't realize that it had a multiplayer element.
It did, yeah. One of the the main multiplayer element it had, there were 2. You could actually do like multiplayer battles against each other, and you could both, if you each had a transfer pack, you could plug in your game and bring your Pokemon onto the game and battle each other, and you could do that up to 4 people. Although I think it was basically 2 people control the same team, so that was kind of janky.
Okay.
but there was also the mini games as well,
Mm-hmm.
which were actually kind of interesting because there were some somewhat entertaining mini games for Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. They were actually kind of like a fun little thing you could do in the game that was nowhere even closely related to the actual Game Boy games themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was kind of cool at the time as a multiplayer thing because otherwise you're just like you're just trudging through tons and tons of battles to like finish out these cups. It was kind of cool to have a multiplayer element to it as well, but even just the actual games themselves battling against people was really kind of cool,
Yeah, that is cool. And just even like back then, I can imagine like as someone who I saw the stuff back then, but I didn't play it myself, so
Mhm.
I would only catch glimpses of it. But it would have been a cool experience to see your Pokemon on this, pretty much like single colored screen, and then
Mhm.
put them in N64 graphics. That must have been mind blowing.
I mean, it was cool to see at the time. The funny part is that like I don't. I mean, you played Pokemon as a kid, Joe. I know you did,
Mm-hmm.
but it always felt like it was rare that you wound up being able to set up like having enough people together to do that. It was almost more like it was an occasion than a regular occurrence.
Yeah.
And it even, it still feels that way to this day, even though you can play online against, people. Like if you want to play against friends of yours or with them, in some of the more modern games, it's kind of like it's an occasion. It's not like a regular thing that happens. So it was easily set up, but not always easily done because unlike every other type of game that allowed you for multiplayer like that, it wasn't just sit down and play. You had to spend time training stuff prior to actually, playing the game against somebody.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that was always kind of a fun thing, but that was the only other one that I wanted to mention just because the one of the main tenets of the series was built off of multiplayer.
Yeah, the one straggler that I wanted to mention was Gauntlet Legends for N64. Did you guys play that?
I never played it.
No, I've never even heard of it.
Oh no, well you know the Gauntlet series, right?
I know gauntlets are things you wear on your hands.
You never heard of the
Of course you
Gauntlet
know that.
series? Okay, okay,
I'm.
all right.
You gotta understand something, Mark. I didn't grow up with Nintendo and stuff like that. I was PlayStation.
He was a PlayStation person.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was too. But I mean, Gauntlet was more than just Nintendo.
Was
But
it?
yeah, it's a pretty popular franchise. I'm
Mhm.
surprised it's the first time hearing about it. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a Diablo kind of game almost. I mean, it's not so much so. At least Gauntlet Legends, it wasn't like an RPG so much where you're like acquiring loot and customizing your equipment. I think you're just pretty much leveling up and getting stronger throughout the game, and that's the extent of it.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I mean, you can play that with multiple people and go through levels and just mow down hordes of enemies, and like they have nests they come out of. You got to destroy the nests so they stop coming at you. And then yeah, I remember in Gauntlet Legends there's this one part where some parts where the Grim Reaper would pop out of nowhere
Oh,
and
nice.
he'd come up to you, and if he came up to you and touched you, and he was really fast too, so if he started like putting his finger on you, like you weren't escaping him really. He was going to chase after you. He would just like constantly lower your health like and just damage you over time really quickly, so
Mhm.
you had to like use a magic potion, like a spell potion, to make him go away. But it was always tense when he would pop up. But that was a fun co-op game, playing back in the day.
It's funny too, because like I feel like I remember hearing about it, but I've never played it or ever really even seen any gameplay of it.
That's surprising. Yeah, because I actually have four of them. I think I have four. I think I have the first Gauntlet on NES, and
Okay,
then that one's kind of brutal to play though. I mean, the gameplay
it's an
itself.
NES game.
I mean, the gameplay itself is pretty fun. It it captures like the soul of what the series is all about.
Mhm.
But the problem with the NES game is that they have a feature where as you're playing it, your health is constantly going down. It's almost like your characters are poisoned.
Oh, jeez.
even if you're not affected by any kind of status effect. And
Mhm.
I think they did it because it was originally an arcade game, and to make it more challenging and make players die and spend quarters, they made their health constantly go down. Otherwise, you'd be playing too long.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know why they didn't remove that from the NES version, but uh, yeah, I mean, it's still pretty cool to play. But then I have Legends on the 64, and I have Dark Legacy and Seven Sorrows on PS2.
Okay.
And they're all fun to play couch co-op. Good hack and slash, and like all your characters have like ranged weapons. So you just hold down a button, and like let's say
Mhm.
you're a barbarian with axes in your hands, you'll just throw an infinite stream of axes at your
Oh,
enemies.
nice.
It's
That's
very
cool.
very arcade style. So they make for fun couch co-op games.
Okay. Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah, and if
I think that's
anyone,
probably one of the reasons I didn't have it is because it was specifically a couch co-op type of situation.
well, you could play it solo.
Mhm.
It was more fun to play with friends because there wasn't as much to it. It was like any like hack and slash kind of game like that where you're going through waves of enemies level to level, fighting a boss here and there.
Mhm.
That kind of thing is usually more fun with a friend.
Mm-hmm.
But
Oh, of course.
because there's not much of a story to get involved with or exploration. The levels are pretty straightforward, so you want to play with some friends and just mow down some fools.
It's like playing Diablo essentially, just a little less complicated.
Yeah, sort of like that.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, those type of games are always fun too because like at least it's just, kind of sitting down with friends, having a good time, hacking through a bunch of stuff and it's a fun way to do that.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah,
guys think of any other major ones? Because I mean, like I feel like once we get past like 2004, 2005, it almost kind of evaporates in terms of new series meant to do that, you know?
Yeah, because everything else is just online.
Yeah.
yeah. After that generation, you start to get the Wii and the 360 and the PS3, and they all had online capabilities. So that's when games stopped incorporating the feature as much. It started dwindling at that point.
I think it's something that they should definitely continue to include because there were some games where like correct me if I'm wrong, but like didn't Halo 5 not support split screen?
I think I
Was it
think
Halo
that might
4 maybe?
I think that might be true
Yeah, I mean,
because
like it's almost unconscionable for a game like that to not have split screen. And for us, we were, we'd be thinking like, well, this is ridiculous. Now I can't get together with friends of mine and play it. But for a lot of people, like, what's the big deal? You can still play it online. That's the main goal of it. But I think it's something that some games should definitely still include because people still like to get together and play games. It's not all online, you know.
yeah, it's a shame that that feature is being dropped. You know, it's so tough to come by. I think I think it is starting to spark back up a little bit in popularity.
Hmm.
I think we've gone a number of years. People have kind of been lamenting the fact that couch co-op is going away and it's all online these days. And I think I've been seeing more and more games that kind of list that as a selling point, as a highlight that you can do it couch co-op. Like
Hmm.
more companies need to recognize that it would be a selling point.
Absolutely.
For a game.
No, I would definitely like to see it make a comeback because there was a while there where a lot of people were enamored with the idea of like, oh my god, I could play with like my friends who are if they're moved away, they're halfway across the country, halfway across the world. I could play with them, and that's awesome. But at the same time, it's like, oh, I can't play with them if they're in the same room, and I'd like to see my friends in person. So it'd be nice if I could play this in person. And it's at least nice to see that kind of making a comeback, and I hope it continues that trend. Like I would love to see, Halo Infinite have split screen. I don't know if it will or not. I'm not sure if we've heard that yet, but it would really kind of suck if it didn't, you know?
Yeah, it'd be nice for it to have that. One day, who knows? Maybe I could have a setup where I would have two Series X's and two copies of Infinite and a bunch of controllers, and we
You're
could
gonna need
play
about
that.
3 lifetimes to find two Series X's.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. But I mean, one good example of a more modern game that has good couch co-op is this this puzzle game I played with my fiance earlier this year called Human Fall Flat. Have you heard about this one?
I have not.
Yeah, you play as these like white kind of featureless blobs of people, and part of the difficulty of the game is just controlling your character because um, they just control like idiots.
Okay.
But the game has kind of a sense of humor to it. It has ragdoll physics, so if you mess up on a
Nice.
jump or something, your guy hits the floor and and they get all messed up.
Nice.
But, yeah, that's a cool game, and it was built really well for 2 players because one person could clear the gap or something, and then hit a switch to lower a bridge so that the other person could make it across. They did a lot of things where kind of emphasized teamwork and playing on the same TV together, and yeah, it was a good time. It was a memorable game.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So,
Mhm.
do you guys have any other examples of more modern kind of couch co-op games after the big heyday?
Well, I know there are a couple, but I can't remember what they're called because I never played them myself. But there was one where it was like a cooperative like parenting game where where you're trying to just basically do menial tasks while keeping your kids out of trouble.
Oh, wait a minute.
I
Is this
for-
the one where like the baby winds up like getting into trouble and there's a whole bunch of stuff that can happen to them while you're trying to keep them from hurting themselves?
No, not that game.
Okay.
No, I forget what it's called, but it's like some like cartoonish like game where like the kids are AI controlled and you and this other player are the parent
Interesting.
characters, and yeah,
Okay.
I'll look into it. And
I think a big reason why we've seen couch co-op come back is because there's been this rise in the concept of asymmetrical gameplay as couch co-op.
mhm.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I mean there are more examples to point to that I haven't played. I know a few years ago, one of the big E3 games, well, I forget the title of it, but it was a Prison Break kind of game,
Mm-hmm.
and you actually had to play with 2 players. But you couldn't play single player. Like you had to do 2-player for that.
Interesting.
It was necessitated by the game's mechanics and the kind of things you had to do. So there's that. I know there's another game called It Takes Two where that's another similar. They might have been made by the same developer. I can't say for sure, but that's another game where you need 2 people to play. So stuff like
It looks
that.
like it's a modern one. It looks like it actually came out this year.
And then there's stuff I haven't
Oh, it
played
says
it,
it
but
was originally for sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say like Overcooked. I haven't played that, but that's another like local party game that
Mhm.
encourages people to be in the same room.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of these are definitely like designed specifically as like mean to be like completely couch co-op, not just a part that happens to be in the game that allows you to do so. But yeah, that's still cool though.
Yeah, it gives me hope for the future if people are out here designing games specifically built for 2-player play. So hopefully stuff like that catches on and we see more of it going forward.
Yeah, I mean that'd be really kind of cool to like see somewhere like, hey, I got this game that's like meant for multiple people to play, and have a few people come over and just sit down and chill and have some fun playing it.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Well,
but
gentlemen, anything more to say on the subject?
Shrek 2 on the PS2 was a fun co-op game that you could
Oh,
play with
you
your
know what?
friends.
I'm gonna
Two?
kick you right out of this Discord.
did it actually have a co-op mode?
It did. It was like a
Oh my god.
well, the game was more of like a beat 'em up than anything else, but yeah, you could play
Hey,
co-op
beat 'em
with
ups
that.
are good.
Yeah.
Are great for co-op. I mean, like I was saying a couple episodes ago, I bought that. I pre-ordered that River City Girls game
Mhm.
from Limited Run's
Mhm.
website, and you could do that 2-player. It's a beat 'em up.
Mhm.
So yeah, that style of game definitely caters to multiple people. But speaking of Shrek 2, it makes me think of just like shitty games you can play with people. And one of my close friends, we played so many games together throughout like high school or college, where they weren't co-op per se, but there's something to be said for buying a really bad game and just switching back and forth with the controller
Mhm.
and playing it and laughing at it and just enjoying it that way.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, I could definitely see that. We did some of that with some of the better games. Like we used to do like a basically shuffling the controller around on each death playing Halo, like the very first one when I was in middle school.
Nice, nice. I've played some games that were not ever intended for multiplayer, and probably weren't intended for some of them. Weren't intended for humans in general.
Nice.
I played this one JRPG. It was a tactical RPG
Okay.
with my friend, and it was called Chaos Wars on the PS2. And
Oh, Lord.
this was the most memorable one out of all the games that he and I played together, just because just the voice acting was so bad. So the concept of the game was pretty much they were taking characters from other video game and I think anime series and mashing them up into a tactical RPG, which sounds like a good idea, right? And I do
Mhm.
like tactical RPGs, so it had promise. But the thing is that based on what I've read about the game, they were going to release the game without having any spoken dialogue. But since having dialogue in games was becoming more and more popular during the PS2 era, they figured in order to compete with other RPGs, they needed to add it, but they didn't have a budget for it.
Oh
So
no.
they actually got like developers and people from their families to do the voices for
Oh
all the
no.
Oh no, that's not good at all.
and you can tell.
Oh my god.
Man, we had a blast playing that, and it was only single player, but we'd switch the controller back and forth and just play levels here and there, and we had a blast doing that. So if you ever just want to play a terrible game like that, it can be fun to just play something that isn't even intended for couch co-op, just to get a kick out of it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but lots of couch co-op games out there. It's a shame that they've kind of dwindled over the years. It's a shame to see it be a feature, like a bullet point and a selling point for a
Mhm.
game in today's industry, instead of just like a common feature.
Mhm.
I'm glad that we're seeing it, and we're seeing more developers who are showing co-op gameplay some love.
Same.
But I wish it was more widespread. It was kind of just like I wish we could take it for granted like we used to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can't help but feel that we all sound incredibly old with this discussion. Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't mind the online stuff.
No, I don't mind it either, but I do like having the ability to play like with my friends in person.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with online at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all play games online commonly, like usually at least once a week.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And I love it. I love using that as a means to keep in touch with friends who live far away from me now. There are so many benefits of that, but given the nature of tonight's discussion and highlighting couch co-op and local multiplayer, it makes sense to kind of uh, you know voice our disappointment for how that's kind of
Gone
dwindled.
away.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more with that too. It would be nice to see an effort made to make that still be a main draw of more modern games. I don't
Yeah.
think it would be effort wasted.
Yeah. It's just a shame that with the omnipresence of online connections and your Xbox Live and your PS Plus, most people have subscriptions to these online services. So I think
Mhm.
that's what a lot of developers are gonna cater to,
Mhm.
kind of in a similar way to how you didn't see as many bangers of multiplayer games on PlayStation 1 or PlayStation 2 because you needed the multi-tap for more than two people. I think a lot of developers see that most people have an online subscription, so that's where they're going to focus their energies.
Yeah.
Not as many people are just like going over to a friend's house to play anymore.
True.
I don't know. Maybe that's just my perspective, but hopefully we keep seeing more of it.
Yeah.
I hope so too. I really do. It'd be nice to play some modern games as all of us getting together, you know?
Yes. Very nice.
Well, Joe, what are you thinking there? Anything else to add?
No, I'm good. Like I said, I
Alright.
don't really have too much to add about with this because like growing up as a kid, I didn't have many gamer friends, and
Mm-hmm.
the ones that were gamers, they weren't interested in playing on the PlayStation, and rightfully so. PlayStation was more of like a single player platform.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Had some outliers, but yeah, like
but-
Twisted Metal was good.
yeah, but for the most part, yeah, it was mainly single player games for me growing up. So
Gotcha.
yeah, but I
Yes.
remember when I was a kid, I kept going, oh wow, this game is great. How awesome would it be if it was 2-player and it was multiplayer? I could play with my friends. Yeah, so.
Well, first you'd have to get friends.
How could you?
Oh man. Well.
Yeah. Also, we talked about a lot of N64 games tonight,
Mhm.
and if anyone's listening, sorry if I didn't talk about Perfect Dark in the same breath as GoldenEye. I've actually never played it. I bought it at Too Many Games, and I don't have an expansion pack for my N64, so I'm gonna have to look for that at the Too Many Games in October to try and get one of those so I can finally play that game. But I hear nothing but good things.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, well, sounds like our conversation is drawing to a close, gentlemen. Any final thoughts, words, or phrases before we end tonight's stream?
I think I've said my piece. Mark?
Yeah, online gaming is great. Helps us keep connected when we can't get together in person. But you can't. It can't ever reach those same kind of heights as being in the same room with your buddies and playing couch co-op. So I hope that we keep getting more games that support couch co-op. I know I'll be playing more couch co-op games over the years, and as I get old, and it's really just a style of play that shouldn't die out and shouldn't be treated like a fossil just because we have all the online capabilities that we have today.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well,
That does it for me.
yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. Anyway, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us again on another episode of Dialogue Options. This was Dialogue Options number 13, and I have been your host, Cobalt Cat, joined by Marcamune and Ace X-Wing 88, and we hope to see you again in the next one. We'll see you later. Bye.
Hasta la vista.
See ya.
Bye.
We still have to figure out a way to end this.
Goodbye now.
It's over.